G'day there guys, thinks eating 20 nuggets is a personality trait, back at it again with another episode of r/am I the a-hole. Now if you love me like I love you, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie, a like on the video, and enjoy today's bloody good content. Posted by user Liver Dilemma 2019, titled, Am I the a-hole for not donating my liver due to a lawsuit and then the person died? My 24 male, partners, 23 female, close friend and boss, 50s male, at the mechanic shop needed a liver transplant. They had been on the list for a while and getting nowhere. Lots of us got tested and I was a match. We were all happy and thrilled that this donation could take place. A week before the surgery date, police showed up at our house to arrest my partner as her boss, the person who was getting a piece of my liver, had accused her of theft, claimed she had stolen thousands from his bank account and stolen from the cash box. The police showed us the CCTV in which she reaches into the box, takes money and walks out of frame. 15 times, 15 days, 15 accusations. The police admitted they had no proof it was theft and no clue on the amounts taken, as she used the box to take customers' money and change. The police also said they didn't see how she accessed their bank accounts and that they felt this was some sort of insurance fraud and they needed a scapegoat. I immediately rang the hospital and my transplant coordinator and backed out of the surgery. We got on with our lives, partner found a new job and attended the court date where the case was thrown out 6 months later. A week after the case was dismissed, we got word boss had died. No one else had been a match or willing to get tested after news got out, and they never found a match in the transplant system in time. I feel so guilty. I allowed someone to die, pretty much murdered them. I let pettiness get in the way of saving a life. Partner and friends feel I did the right thing. None of this is on me, and not giving a piece of me to the person possibly putting my partner in prison for a long time, a week before surgery, is my choice and the right choice. Boss's friends and family have been ringing non-stop, harassing us at our jobs and posting online a lot how I'm a murderer and killed boss, that I should have given the liver anyway and been a good person. I feel I should have given it, but who bites the hand that feeds? I didn't want to get cut open, risk dying, and other complications for someone who didn't care for me and mine. But now, someone is dead from something I could have prevented. I'm conflicted and losing sleep over this. Am I the a-hole for not giving my liver to the person accusing my partner of theft and then later dying? Edit. Thank you for all the positive and informative feedback. I think seeing the outside impartial view on this has helped me put it in perspective. I've only been focusing on my selfishness causing his death, as opposed to his actions contributing to. I'll be getting some counseling, as suggested, to help deal with the constant what-ifs in my brain, and to help me move past this, and to stop shouldering the burden. Edit. Well, this blew up. Thanks for the awards and positive vibes, everyone. Much appreciated. Just clearing up a few things. My girlfriend didn't steal. She was just doing her job getting change and paying invoices. The wife, who admitted to stealing later, simply used footage of her accessing the cash box to try to make it seem like she stole. I didn't state she was innocent, as it's innocent until proven guilty, and she wasn't found guilty, so my mistake. It's been pointed out that with boss so unwell, perhaps it wasn't him doing this but his wife. That's a great point I never considered, and now makes me feel even more guilty. I should have checked. We're in the UK, so I guess our legal system works differently to the States, in that I didn't have to pay a bail. Just simply take her home and take her to the court dates. This could be why the policemen told us straight up that it seemed like bull, and were very candid and kind to us. They even bought us lunch when one went to Subway. Also, as said, the surgery would have probably been cancelled anyway, as I did have another welfare check or two scheduled for that week with the transplant team at the hospital, and I was hugely stressed out. My work gave me that week and the following off anyway for being such a good sport. Thanks for the DMs calling me a murderer. Appreciated. I'm gonna go with not the a-hole. I mean, all this extra info comes to light, but, if it is in fact the wife's doing, at the end of the day, the blood is on her hands, not OP's. That's my opinion. You can take it with a grain of salt if you'd like. I don't feel like OP is responsible for their death. You know, they went through the entire system, they looked for other donors. OP had the chance to give them the liver through surgery, and then their partner was threatened. I would pull out too, you know? Very serious accusations against them. What, are you going to still support the life of someone giving you serious accusations against your partner? It's not a world that I want to live in. Sounds grim, but I'm willing to bet a lot of people would be the same way. This situation is just a ton of mishaps one after the other, but ultimately I feel like OP is not the a-hole. You don't owe anybody your organs. The boss did not care about your family. He didn't try to get your partner's side of the story before calling the police. Report them for harassment if they keep pestering you. Hypothetically, even if your partner was stealing, the boss should have let it go. A transplant is priceless. The phrase "don't bite the hand that feeds" seems very applicable here. What did they expect would happen? Oh, yeah, I know you had my girlfriend arrested. Anyway, let's go do this super dangerous surgery to make sure that you can keep screwing people over. You are not the a-hole. Her boss had put your partner's life and freedom in jeopardy at the same time as you were arranging to help extend his. Now, if the accusations were founded, you would still be not the a-hole, but it would be more of a no a-holes here scenario. If you feel bad, go donate blood. Save other lives. Thank you. I donate blood regularly as I have a rarer blood type anyway, and she's not that sort. She was working there to pay for school, and she insisted we both get tested before we were even asked to. Then you really need to cut yourself some slack. You didn't do a single thing wrong. Posted by user ILovePizza32, titled, "Am I the a-hole for siding with my brothers and sister-in-law over my parents?" So, my brother and my sister-in-law have been married for 6 years. I love them both dearly. They adopted a little girl about a year ago. My parents were happy about this too at first. They got really angry when my brother and sister-in-law announced recently that their daughter would be their only child and they do not want biological kids. My mum and dad lost their crap. They told my brother he had to get my sister-in-law pregnant. He was the family's male heir, and he would have to have a biological son to carry forward the family name. This makes no sense to me, nor my brother and sister-in-law. It's not as if we're a family of European royalty. Who gives a frick about the family name in this day and age? Well, my parents do apparently. They've been berating my brother and guilt-tripping my sister-in-law, making her feel like she's taking something away from our family. On one occasion, they actually suggested that my brother leave my sister-in-law if she didn't want to get pregnant and have a son with another woman. What's even worse is that they've stopped paying attention to my niece. Earlier, they would call and talk to her almost every day, but ever since they were told about my brother and sister-in-law's decision, they've stopped calling her. This pees me off, and has deeply saddened my brother and sister-in-law. The child is 3 years old and doesn't deserve this kind of treatment. Yesterday, when I called my brother, he seemed very upset. He told me that Mum and Dad had called him and they had talked about something unrelated. When he asked if they wanted to talk to their granddaughter, they said they'd talk to their real grandchild when my brother came to his senses and decided to give them one. I was angrier than I've been in a long time. I called my parents and unloaded on them. I told them how selfish and cruel they were being, and how dare they take out their anger on my niece, along with a lot of other things that I can't even remember. My mother started crying as she's not used to being yelled at. I understand that yelling at them may have been a bit much, but I just can't believe how awful they're being towards a kid. So, am I the a-hole, or are they? Edit. Some people have been wondering how my parents would act when I have kids. No need to worry about that since I won't be having any. I made this clear to my parents years ago, and yes, they threw a fit over this. Yeah, no, you're not forced to have biological kids if you don't want to have them. It's perfectly a-okay to just have adopted kids, or one adopted kid. There's genuinely nothing wrong with that. Don't know why they're carrying these archaic views about, the bloodline's important, we gotta get the bloodline. So many people carry those views, I genuinely don't understand it. It holds no weight. Your family could be wiped out by a tsunami tomorrow. Your family could be wiped out by some huge virus that takes over the world, hint hint. The bloodline won't continue after that, but people will. You're trying to control something that you think is in your control, but it's not. There's not a lot that's actually in your control. Stupid parents. OP, not the a-hole. Your parents can be disappointed that they don't have a biological grandchild, but you are absolutely right to call them out on how cruel they're being to your niece. What if your brother or sister-in-law weren't physically able to have children? I wonder if your parents would have thrown a fit about carrying on the family name then. Either way, they need to come to terms with their disappointment and stop taking it out by being so mean to everyone, especially their granddaughter. It's horrible how they're treating the grandchild that they do have, and also that they see OP's sister-in-law as some kind of child vessel, treating her as if her only purpose is to bear their grandchildren. It makes me wonder what they're going to do if OP has a kid. Will they be extremely overbearing to that child and ignore their adopted grandchild? Honestly, they're going to create a huge rift in the family forever, and they could very well lose the privilege to see any of the kids or grandkids. Not the a-hole. Posted by user Colette195. Titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my relatives how much I make and defending my salary? Over the weekend, I, 23 female, went to dinner with some of my dad's relatives who I don't see very often. My dad has never gotten along with my uncle, his brother, and I haven't either. He's rude, condescending, and we don't agree with him on a lot of things. Normally, I just try to ignore him. However, at dinner, my uncle asked me about my car that I'd shown up in and my new job. I started my job a little over a year ago after graduating college, and I worked hard for it. I make a lot of money, and I'm proud of that. Software engineer. I recently bought myself my dream car that I've always wanted. Uncle asked, how much are they paying you anyway? In a condescending tone, and I just point blank told him how much I make. I guess I was supposed to laugh and say something like, oh, enough, but I told him the number. He started going off on a rant about how no 23-year-old should make that much money and how stupid my company is for paying me that much. I got ticked and said, I deserve every penny I make. I work hard and most people can't do what I do. Well, I guess this really made my uncle angry because after dinner I received a text from my cousin saying I'd been really rude at dinner and insulted my uncle's intelligence. My dad sided with me since he hates my uncle anyway, but my sister agreed with my cousin and said I shouldn't have said how much money I make or talked to my uncle the way I did because it was impolite. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Wow, I didn't expect for this to blow up. Thanks for the responses, everyone. I feel justified in how I reacted now. For more info on my uncle, he's a retired airline pilot, so I don't think he's even jealous and bitter about how much I make. He's just a jerk. Think this is just one of those mistakes a lot of people have when they're young. You like to talk about how much money you make or how much you don't make, and we just like to throw out numbers there sometimes, and I understand that. It's a lesson you have to learn, you gotta make mistakes, and this guy took it the wrong way. You don't just chuck your salary out there all the time, especially with someone you don't know how they're going to react. OP came from good faith, I'd like to believe was their intention there, and the uncle took it the wrong way. So OP's not the a-hole, everyone else is. Besides the father, he seems like a cool guy. Not the a-hole. He asked you a question, you answered. He insulted you, and you defended yourself. Don't dish it out if you can't take it is my motto. Exactly. She didn't even insult him. She said most people can't do what she does, which isn't targeting him, and so what if he can't code? Bruises his very small ego. My guess is he's at a dead-end job, so anything and anyone is a threat to him. So he's actually a retired airline pilot, which he has always been kind of a jerk about. I always compare it to Jake Peralta's dad in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. But he also has 5 adult children and 2 ex-wives, all of whom I think he still supports at least somewhat financially. If he got his bruised ego by your salary, then his entire worth lies with his paycheck that came from the job. A lot of people can study to become pilots, but only a handful can code. Not the a-hole, typical boomer bullcrap. You work hard and have skills the companies are willing to pay that much for. Good for you. It's not like you were rubbing it in his face either. He was pushing the topic. This just reeks of jealousy, pettiness, and insecurities of your uncle. He was being rude, not you. Not the a-hole. He's just jealous of how late in life he got the same salary, if he ever has. This whole, it's rude to talk about your salary BS, is just a way for companies to underpay some people in a department, in my opinion. If everyone knows what the people around them are paid for the same job and experience, they'd have to be paid equal. Wow, thanks for the replies, everyone. I asked here because only my dad seemed to think that what I said was okay, and he's not exactly an unbiased party since, as mentioned, he can't stand my uncle. I've always heard it's rude to talk about your salary too, which is why I wondered if what I said was crossing a line. But now that I've read in multiple comments it's actually a tactic employers use to keep employees in the dark, I don't feel bad about saying the number. And I don't feel bad about defending myself either. Posted by user FlotoMofo. Titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to RSVP to my sister's wedding because I'm required to write an application essay just to attend? Yeah, I know this sounds insane, but I'm living in it. So, my sister is getting married next February, destination wedding no less. I have doubts whether this wedding is actually going to happen with the pandemic and everything, but she's totally set on moving forward. Anyways, because of the pandemic, her original venue has made her cut down on guests because they're cutting capacity by half. As a result, she's sending out re-invites that ask everyone to RSVP again. But in order to figure out who to invite and who to cut, she's asking all confirmed guests to submit 2 250-word essays to 2 questions. The gist is that they'll use these essays to choose who can come or not, based on people's enthusiasm. People who don't write the essays at all will be automatically disqualified. I just feel really insulted by all of this. The questions aren't even pandemic related, it's broad topics like, why do you still want to celebrate this day with us? And what will attending our wedding mean to you specifically? So she's blatantly looking for people to kiss ass and tell her why they really want to go. Anyways, I told her in advance that I'm not writing 500 words on why I need to attend her wedding, spend my own money on plane tickets and hotels, and buy her a present. This has really rubbed her and my parents the wrong way. She said that to keep things fair, if I don't fill out the RSVP correctly, I won't be saved a spot. I said, fine with me. Then my parents said if I don't show up, I'm going to be in big fudging trouble with all our relatives, so just write the essays. Am I the a-hole if I stay stubborn on this? I'm already annoyed at the thought of spending thousands and coming home to quarantine, but I will not belt out 500 words on how this is totally my choice. Am I the a-hole? Edit, I'm 27 female, I don't live with family, but she is my only sister. Edit 2, sister has framed these essays as surveys, but there's a word limit requirement, so if you don't reach it on the Google Forms, you can't even submit. Parents seem to think this is perfectly reasonable, nice even, because sister is letting everyone have the chance to attend. No, I think this is a load of horse crap. I think that the sister shouldn't have to go if she doesn't want to, shouldn't have to be forced to do this bloody 500-word essay if she doesn't want to. I feel like this entire family is disillusioned with this stupid essay coming into the mix. Why is this a thing? Why do you have to put it on them to choose if they come or not? Man up, and you pick the list of people you want to go. The sister is spineless. She's absolutely spineless. Plus the plane tickets and hotel stay, and then quarantine again. It just puts everyone in such a bad spot in February while we already don't have a lot of money during this time. I think the sister is honestly living in fantasy land. She needs a, nice slice of humble pie. It doesn't really seem like the time or place in my mind. OP, not the a-hole. Not the a-hole? I would definitely send in 2 essays. The first would say, Mum and Dad said I have to come or I'm in big trouble, over and over again until you hit 250. The second, I'm your sibling. That is some wonderful and slightly malicious compliance. I love it. The pettiest of compliance, and I love it. OP, you're not the a-hole, and please do this. It's one thing for your sister to ask friends or extended family to do this, but immediate family should be automatically invited. This is ridiculous. It's ridiculous to ask anyone to do this. You invite people to your wedding because you want to share your important moments with them, not the other way around. Frankly, anyone who spends time out of their day to write an essay begging for the privilege of a wedding invitation is a giant doormat. Not the a-hole, and I hope no one writes the essay so she can see how ridiculous she's being. I wonder how it is that neither the sister, the fiancé, nor the parents have realized that she's publicly humiliating them by being a lunatic. Unless everyone she knows took the same crazy pill she did, most people aren't going to write it, and she's going to be a laughingstock for the rest of time. Anyone who has planned a wedding, or been close to someone planning a wedding, knows that it's hard AF to get people to RSVP on time. That's why they put the RSVP date anywhere between a week and a month before they actually need final numbers. And that's usually a tick box. 500 words from every friend and family member just isn't going to happen at all. Posted by user ThrowawayTA, titled, "Am I the a-hole for hiding my gender?" Last month, I befriended a guy I met through a game on PS4. It's a team-based game, and we work very well together, which makes it very fun. From the start, I felt that he assumed I'm a dude, but I didn't care. We got along well, he wasn't toxic or rude, and we even swapped numbers. FYI, I don't use voice chat, so he never heard my voice. Also, I have a unisex name, think Charlie, so I guess that didn't help. When we text, we mostly talk about games or similar stuff, but sometimes he would tell me personal things. For example, being rejected by a girl or something like that. I just said that sucks, sorry about that, etc. Then we'd go back to talking about our interests. He was a lot more open than I was. Yesterday we texted and I told him that I wouldn't be available this weekend. He asked me what I'm doing and I told him that I'm doing something with my boyfriend. He asked me if I'm gay. I told him that I'm a straight girl. Wow, he freaked out big time. He started calling me a liar and a manipulative tramp. He said that I purposely hid my gender from him and that I'm full of crap. He said that I only mentioned my boyfriend because I'm a cruel, selfish bleh, and that I'm the reason nobody respects women. Lol, he really said this. I was seriously shocked and told him that he has fudging problems. He sent me this very long text accusing me of being unethical and predatory. He genuinely believes I tricked him into thinking I'm a guy. I never said I'm a guy, he just assumed and I didn't care. So, am I the a-hole? Edit, I blocked his number and then he started texting me from a different number because he said he wasn't finished with his rant. I blocked him again and he somehow found my Instagram and started messaging me on there. His tone suddenly changed and he apologized for attacking me. I told him to stop contacting me and he freaked out again and called me a narcissistic, manipulative bleep bloop. Reported and blocked him. We love it when a nice guy tips his fedora. Very cool guy, 10 out of 10, would report and block again. I just don't get how some people's insecurities come out like that and they start attacking. Like, I've been through the gamer community myself. I was there when Call of Duty Black Ops was hitting the scene. You hear a 10-year-old on the microphone, you start yelling at them. You hear a girl and you start being disgusting towards them. It was just part and parcel of gamer culture in some way. But I don't understand how it bleeds out into real life like this, and people take it so seriously. They're just like, oh, you used me, I feel so betrayed, God. These people, I feel like they have genuine mental health issues because no normal person would ever be like this. That man needs a lot of help. I don't blame OP at all. They did exactly what I would do. Report, block, stonewall him, get him out of your life. Good job, OP, not the a-hole. Not the a-hole at all. As a female gamer myself, I can relate to this. I personally don't feel like I should have to announce to the world that I'm female, but I do feel like I have to sometimes. I've learned that there are 3 types of guy gamers. Guys who don't give a frick what your gender is, guys who think that girl gamers shouldn't be playing games, and guys who think that if you're a girl gamer, you should be in a relationship with them. I might have missed some outliers, but that's the 3 common ones. In my experience, most are the first type, but I have had to deal with the other types as well. Just because you didn't reveal your gender to him doesn't mean you were manipulative. We female gamers don't expect guys to announce to us that they're guys, lol. We just want to have fun after school and work like anyone else, and gender has nothing to do with that. I'm sorry you had to go through with that, but just try to find other people to game with. In the end, this guy's not someone you want to game with. Thank the devs for the block functions, lol. Guys who think you only play because a man got you into it, or you can play with a man. Guys who think because you're not a man, you're trying to use feminine wiles to get something from them, despite never asking a single thing from them. Think OPs falls under this one. One of my favorite r/relationships posts ever, and it was a pretty small one before it got deleted, was a guy asking for opinions to see if his female friend was using him. He described how they were supposed to meet up for an event and hang out. They had each paid their own way. She never asked, suggested, or hinted that he should pay for her. She was paying for her own travel and accommodation. This dude could not give a single solitary reason as to why or how she might be using him, but kept asking the commenters if they thought she was. Basically, the epitome of your second category there. She wants to be friends? What's the catch? The catch is, you don't get to have sex with her. Yeah, nah, bad deal, buddy. I'm leaving. So what, you're saying my RuneScape girlfriend in 2010 didn't want to actually date me? What? No! How come my account got hacked? Where'd all my money go? Posted by user, decade later. Titled, Am I the a-hole for resenting my family for something that happened over a decade ago? When I was 15, I was in a car accident. I was riding my bike on new bike lanes that my city had installed, and a car hit me. I ended up having to go to the hospital. Nothing major. The car was turning onto the main road when it hit me, so it was going well below the speed limit. But since it was a car accident, I was forced into the ambulance and shipped off to the hospital to get x-rays. Since I was a minor, I wasn't allowed to be released from the hospital without my family coming to pick me up. I didn't have a cell phone at the time, so I called my home phone with the hospital phone. No answer. The nurse told me they'll try to contact them while I go in to get examined. Not too serious, since I'm still alive, but my leg was broken, and I still kinda walk weird. When walking, my right leg footprints are straight while my left foot is angled around 30 degrees outwards. When all that was done, they said they were still unable to get a hold of anyone from my family. 8 hours later, and who knows how many calls, the cop who showed up to the scene came back to the hospital and I was still there. So he ended up driving me back home. When I got to my house, I opened the door and my mum instantly freaks out when she saw the cop and started yelling at me, asking what the frick I did. The cop explained the situation and started asking my mum why no one picked up the phone. She says, "We didn't recognize the number." It's been over a decade since then, and I was on a Zoom call with the family, and that incident was brought up. Wasn't even me who brought it up, and I simply said, "Haha, that's why I never used any of you as an emergency contact." Well, they blew up. Mum started crying since I guess she still felt guilty about it, and hung up. My siblings started saying things like, "Geez, that was over a decade ago. You need to let it go. Apologize to Mum, she didn't know. She would have come to pick you up if she had known." Yo, even the friends I was with told me they went knocking on my door to tell my fam what happened, and my mum opened the door, and before they were even able to say anything, my mum says, "My name isn't here right now," and closed the door. Truth be told, I still kinda resented that time. Every winter, I look down at my footprints and it's a reminder of it, since it showed me I couldn't really depend on my family. Am I the a-hole for still resenting this? Not like it's a constant resentment, but I still kinda have mixed feelings. ETA, noticed a few people asking the same thing, but in concerns of why no one picked up the phone. At the time, the home number was constantly being called by scammers, so maybe they just assumed it was another scammer. We actually had to change the home phone number maybe a few months after, since the calls were getting increasingly aggressive. Due to the scammer's constant calls, the answering machine was always full, so I also wasn't able to leave a message. I also reached out to one of the friends that was there, and I got it wrong. It wasn't my mum who answered the door, it was my older brother. It's been a long time, and my memory isn't the greatest. Sorry about that. As for the people asking if mum ever apologized, she apologized for jumping to conclusions of me doing something bad when the cops showed up, but never got a direct apology for not picking up the phone, which resulted in me staying at the hospital for hours. She did get me a phone for my birthday that year saying, just in case something ever comes up again, but no, never a formal apology. Well, I guess in that case, definitely not the a-hole. She has remorse about it, she's crying, but why can't she bring herself to apologize to you? God, I would. That would be the first thing that would come out of my mouth as soon as the police arrived at the door, like, I have anxiety about picking up phone numbers that I don't know. It's led to me being abused by people I've never known that got a hold of my phone number and just started chatting shit to me. So I can see where that comes from, I can see where the scamming part comes from as well, but definitely apologizing sincerely and continuously. That would be on the table. Why can the mother not do that? And I think OP holds resentment over that. I can understand why they'd be salty still 10 years later. It's genuinely not something easy to let go of, and I don't think the family should be that upset. An emergency contact is someone you need to rely on. They've proven themselves unreliable. Yes, it could be 10 years ago, but who's to say it won't happen again? This has been my expert opinion today. Take it with a grain of salt, not the a-hole. I don't like phones from unknown numbers either, but refusing to pick up a phone ringing multiple times within 8 hours, while at the same time being worried about missing child? What the hell? I'd be mad too. Yep, if the same unknown number calls me 3 times in a row, then I assume that something freaky is up and I answer. Worst case scenario, I wind up hanging up on somebody asking me for money. The thing is, it seemed she didn't even realize Opie was missing and assumed they did something bad when the cops showed up. Not the a-hole if they don't answer unknown numbers. Who on earth would list them as emergency contacts? Not the a-hole. It's strange your mum has such an out of proportion reaction for something they all say you have to get over. It's a big deal. And OP says, after the accident, I started developing behavioral problems, started smoking weed, and never really wanted to spend time with family. So maybe mum just correlated that to when she essentially failed me in my one time of need as a kid. Posted by user Ceiling Fan Floor Tiles, titled, Am I the a-hole for firing my babysitter for getting drunk on the job? This is my throwaway account. So my 37 female babysitter, 16 female, has been babysitting for me for about 2 months. She's a very sweet and quiet girl and is good with the kids, 4 female and 8 male. We've only had small problems here and there, but nothing major at all. When she first started babysitting for me, I had asked her if there were any drinks or snacks that she'd like me to keep at the house, as she's here from 9 to 7 every Monday through Saturday. She mentioned that she really liked seltzer water, and I had brought them for the first month, but honestly, I forgot after a while and never kept any in the fridge. A few days ago, I bought hard seltzers for me and my husband and didn't think anything of it. A little bit after 2 p.m, she messaged me that she wasn't feeling well and thought that she may have to go home. If it was possible I could get off from work earlier. I asked her to try and hold out until the end of the day. Not too long after, she called me crying, saying that something was wrong and she had to go home. She was drunk clearly, she had drank the hard seltzers. I told her to leave and she walked home. She messaged me the next day and said that she now knew that hard seltzers were alcohol, and she hadn't known. She never drank before, as both of her parents were alcoholics, and she has diagnosed PTSD regarding alcohol. She never even planned on drinking in general. I told her not to come back, as she put my children in danger. She called me crying and saying that she didn't know, and that she cared deeply about my children and would never ever drink with them, or at all, and that she needs the money to pay for a driver's permit. She comes from a not so well-off family. I told her to find a real job and that it wasn't my fault she got drunk. My husband says I'm being very rude and that she did try to reach out when she wasn't feeling well. My kids are upset to see her go. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? Yes, how do you read this and see that she's coming from a place of vulnerability? She's apologizing to you. She told you she doesn't know what a hard seltzer is. You stocked the fridge with them. She said seltzer water. So many things you screwed up, OP. Gotta remember, she's 16 with PTSD from a family that doesn't treat her well. And on top of that, you tell her to find a real job after she's looking after your kids? Why don't you take on the real job of looking after your own kids then if you think it's so easy? We'll see how that goes for you, OP. So many things that you've done here that are just so wrong. So wrong, nasty, vile in every way. You're a bad person, OP. You're the a-hole. Edit. Okay guys, I'm the a-hole. I see it now. Thank you. I'll hire her again. And edit number 2. I will pay her $1,500 a week from now on, and pay her permit and test, as well as her license test. Seems like a troll, but okay. You are an ungodly a-hole. Those seltzers are newish in the alcohol world, and I wouldn't expect someone who hates alcohol to know that. How mature of her to let you know. How immature of you to do what you did. You're the a-hole. Not only newish to alcohol, but fudging 16. I sure as hell didn't know what each and every alcoholic beverage looked like at 16. What a massive a-hole. Edit. In response to OP's edit, I hope the babysitter has found a better employee to work for. I hope with every fiber in my being that she is able to give her a "that's gonna be a no from me, dog," when OP calls and offers her the job back. Someone else replies, I am well over 16, and grabbed one accidentally a few weeks ago from my own fridge. They also don't taste all that much of alcohol, so I was a good third of the way down before I realized my mistake. I've done this several times myself, because we buy different seltzers all the time. To make it worse, I poured it in a glass, so I didn't even have a can to look at. OP should be ashamed of herself. She's lucky the babysitter's parents didn't call the cops on her. Seriously, I'm 5 years sober, and have to be really careful about logos on seltzer now. Someone at the grocery store had taken a hard seltzer from the beer section and put it with the regular ones on another aisle. It took me a minute to realize it was alcohol and not just some new flavored water. How the hell is a 16-year-old that didn't even buy the stuff supposed to know? I'm gonna read OP's comments in order from latest to earliest. I don't know how this works, so I can't find what they're replying to, but paints a really rough picture, this one. So there's 5 comments, and here we go. I do believe her. She's a very nice girl, quiet and shy, but I think she should have read the label and been more responsible. I pay her $100 a week, which she was happy to take. She mentioned that she helps her dad pay rent, so I'm assuming that's why she doesn't have the money. In my country, kids are out of school right now, hence why my children are home. I thought $100 a week was fair for a first-time job, but now I see it's not. I only need her for a few more weeks. It is only fair to pay quite a bit to make up for underpaying her for the past 2 months. I can afford to pay $1,500 a week for a few weeks, not long term. And no, I wouldn't be able to afford 3 months paying $1,500 a week. So it does look like this is real and they're not trolling. $100 a week? Dear Lord, OP. Disgusting. Posted by user Sick Doe. Titled, Am I the a-hole for making an insurance claim against my neighbor for hitting my car, even though my car is a beater? I have an old car that I bought for $2,000 when I was 16. I'm 26 now. In the time I've had it, I've learned a lot about car maintenance. I fix it up with junkyard parts, and it's pretty cheap to keep running. It's dented and rusty as hell, but it goes, and it's cheap. So anyway, my neighbor parks in his driveway, and I park on the street. And he's gotten mad at me for parking in the street because he finds it harder to navigate his big truck around my car. I asked him if he wants me to move my car ahead a bit or behind a bit on the street, because I'm happy to, but I have to park somewhere on the street because I don't have a driveway or garage space. He didn't like that. He doesn't want me parking on the street at all, but I'm not about to park on a whole different street than I live at. Anyway, this week I was sitting on my fire escape reading a book, and I saw my neighbor drive out of his driveway right into my car's side. I grabbed my phone and started filming ASAP. I walked out to the car still filming and got a good video of the damage to the door panel. It was dented and scratched. Now, my car was already pretty beat. It's got body panels from 3 different cars, dents and dings all over. It's got damage to the convertible soft top that I've fixed up with glue and patches, etc. It's a tough old girl. So the new damage didn't bother me much. I didn't plan on fixing it. But it did bother me that my neighbor hit and run my car, especially because he knew it belongs to me. So after a few days of thinking on it, I decided to file an insurance claim. I sent the company the video which had gotten my neighbor's license plate in it. I thought they could find his insurance and settle. The insurance company said that for a hit and run, the policy was that I needed to file a police report, so I did. I wasn't expecting that much, but I got a $1,600 payout from my neighbor's insurance. I guess they appraised my car based on its estimated value, based on model and year, and didn't pay attention to the fact that it was an absolute beater with a lot of DIY fixes. Anyway, my neighbor was mad at me and came to my house after the insurance thing had paid out, and he was looking to yell at me. But my landlord was there in the hallway doing some repairs, and when he came looking for which door was mine, my landlord told him that if he wasn't invited to get the hell off his property. I guess he could tell this guy was angry and probably wasn't a good idea to send him up to my room. I feel a little bad that I hid, lol. Feels cowardly, but it was also cowardly that he did a hit and run. Am I the a-hole for taking a huge insurance payout on my beater car because my neighbor hit it? No, not at all. You got proof, and on a video, that he hit you. Do you know how rare that is, OP? It's not easy to find a hit and run happening and have your phone out at the same time. I'd say this is somewhat of a stars aligning situation because it's hard to get proof of hit and runs of the person that did it. He's just mad because he got caught. Don't be sad, OP. A lot of people would hide in the same situation. You don't want to confront someone that's emotional and ready to fight. I don't, you don't, and I don't blame you. Not the a-hole. It doesn't matter what state your car was in. At best, he is an irresponsible driver. At worst, he intentionally committed a crime because of an unreasonable vendetta. Either way, he should face the consequences. He intentionally committed a crime when he left the scene of an accident. OP is not the a-hole, not at all. Honestly, I hate everything about his post. This guy hit my parked car because he can't navigate it properly and fled the scene. Am I the a-hole for getting his insurance to pay for it? Oh, he's my neighbor, by the way. Mate, this is what insurance is for. This is why you have insurance. It's so unbelievably not the a-hole, I'm shocked it's not removed by mods. Wasn't there a rule about things like this being so obviously not the a-hole that it's absurd? I personally don't think it's quite that clear-cut an issue. I believe that there is an added element of possible a-hole due to the lack of damage or even real caring about damage. The insurance and police reports were filed as a retaliatory action against the neighbor. Not that any of that excuses the actions of the neighbor, who was clearly the a-hole in this situation, but there's the whole two wrongs don't make a right perspective too. Even so, I think OP's actions are entirely excused as a punitive measure for the a-hole neighbor, if nothing else. Posted by user Le Loup Guide, the Wolf Girdles in French. Titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my friends to have realistic expectations about who will find him attractive? My friend, male 20, complains about his lack of men to date. He isn't unattractive, but he is no male model. He, however, has very narrow tastes when it comes to men. He wants a tall, ripped male model who isn't feminine in any way, which I've always found pretty shallow. Yesterday, while he was complaining about how he must be so ugly because none of these 10 out of 10 men would date him and that he will never find a decent guy to date, I told him that he needed to have more realistic expectations. Most people aren't perfect models and the epitome of masculinity. So he needs to be open to dating less attractive people and not be so shallow because he's also not a 10 out of 10. He accused me of attacking his self-esteem and not being a good friend, for telling him he's unattractive and ridiculing him for having standards. I feel justified in what I said because I think he needs a wake-up call, but maybe I shouldn't have told him that he's not that attractive. He has had issues with self-esteem in the past, so I felt guilty for bringing up his looks. I guess in this one I'd say that everyone kinda sucks here. You know, it's fine to tell him that he's not that attractive in some situations if you know that he's gonna take it well, but in this situation maybe it wasn't fine because he's not taking it well. I feel like there are concessions where people will, genuinely take it on board because you're giving them honest advice as a friend. I'd say it's a not the a-hole leaning on everyone sucks here in this situation just because of that comment. But helping your friends see reality, nothing wrong with that. So that's my judgment. And OP replies in their post, I'd like to thank everyone who took the time to give their perspective on the situation. I've realized that I was both in the right and in the wrong on this matter. I wanted to tell him that his very high standards were making him unhappy because he's been struggling to find decent boyfriends for the 6 years I've known him, and I was worried it was the reason he was suffering with such bad self-esteem. Not defending myself here. I, however, did insinuate he wasn't a 10 out of 10 and dealt a blow to a person who already struggles with self-esteem. I was an a-hole for that. I said what I said out of concern, but I may have done some damage in doing so. Thank you all for making me realize this. Also, to the one person who said I didn't understand sexuality and homosexuality, as a bisexual male, all I have to say is lol. Not the a-hole. I have a friend who's also extraordinarily like your friend, and it's to the point where it's obnoxious. Even if they did meet a person who lived up to their physical standards, it's unlikely that person will also meet their other standards too. Personally, I would much rather a person who I can chat with and has similar likes as me over them being my 10 out of 10. I've dated some very attractive people, but quite honestly, it just wasn't a match because the personalities just weren't there. Your friend seems to not have learned that lesson, and well, they are going to continue down the path he's chosen until they gets it right. When I have friends like this, I tell them to find someone with whom they can laugh, talk, do things with, instead of going for a look. Honestly, it's really, really obnoxious. I have so many smart, wonderful, loyal male friends that I met in college who she actually has a ton in common with, but she won't ever talk to any of them because they aren't the gruff, tattooed lumberjack type she wants. I mean, it is important to be attracted to your partner, but if you can't have a conversation with them, is it really worth it? Lol, gruff, tattooed lumberjack is totally my type too. Especially if they're on the shorter side, like 5'5", 5'8", it's ideal. I call it my buff, bearded, short dude fetish. But my husband is tall and lanky and has a bit of a dad bod, and while he has a beard right now, he hasn't always, and that makes him in no way less attractive to me. I can't for the life of me fathom people who refuse to give someone a shot if they don't physically match up with their dream 10 out of 10. My husband is so much better than any fictional short lumberjack I could make up, because he's real and he loves me, and we make each other laugh, and even if we're not each other's dream bod, we still have great sex. It makes no sense to hold out for perfection when you can find someone you click with and make perfection on your own. Posted by user Downtown Inevitable 6, titled, Am I the a-hole for hiding my tip money from my boyfriend? My boyfriend and I have lived together for over a year, and we've had birth control failure, broken condom, that resulted in me getting pregnant just a few months into the relationship. The entire time I was pregnant, I worked full-time and was getting put on bed rest quite a bit. He would not keep a job, he would not get along with my management, they didn't like him, they were picking on him, they wanted him to work longer hours, or whatever excuse he could find to quit. He's also a chain smoker and always needing cigarettes or being very angry and rude when he didn't have them. Well, my son was born early and he needed to be in the NICU. I figured since my boyfriend didn't have a job that he would stay at the hospital with me, 2.5 hours away from our house. He then announced he got a new job and I could stay with the baby and he was going home. Our son was given a 50-50 chance to even come home. I was angry, but I let him go, hoping he was going to straighten up. Fast forward, and our son is home and on oxygen, and of course my boyfriend isn't working again, and I'm pulling doubles. I make enough with my paychecks to pay the bills, but I've been hiding my tip money in a wax candle burner, which is broken so it doesn't turn on. I've saved quite a bit, because if I don't hide it, then he takes it to buy pack after pack of cigarettes. I know it's dishonest, but it's the only extra money I have. Well, he was messing around and hit a corner shelf where I kept the cash, and it fell on the floor and the money spilled out. He scolded me for hiding money from him, and that he was suffering from nicotine withdrawal, and that he couldn't believe how selfish I was, and that I was a liar, and all this other stuff. Am I the a-hole? Edit to add, I've stayed with him despite his actions, because my very religious family was very upset that I got pregnant out of wedlock, and I'm afraid that if I leave him, that they will shun me even more for being a single parent. Edit to add, he doesn't smoke in the house around the baby. He has a machine that is plugged into the wall that creates oxygen from the surrounding air, so he has to sleep and stay right beside that machine at all times. So he goes outside to smoke. Also, he's taking care of our son during the day. He seems well cared for. Putting into childcare isn't an option because none of the childcare centers will take him because of his oxygen dependency, and the ones who will are so expensive that my whole paycheck would barely cover the cost. I feel like I'm drowning sometimes, just barely making it above water. I feel like this is a good time to say, not the a-hole. I would get out of there as soon as possible. The fact that you're scared of your partner, that they are so useless, that there's such a weight on your relationship, they refuse to compromise, they refuse to get a job, they just sit at home and collect money at you and blame their nicotine addiction on you not giving them your tips from your job when you have to pull doubles and they won't pull their weight around the house. Genuinely not acceptable. I won't stand for it. I would never stand for a partner like that. They'd be on the street faster than you could say yo, which isn't even a word. I understand that OP doesn't have much option in this situation, but I'd rather be on my own than with this person in my life. Update, edit. I just called my grandmother and told her about everything going on, and my son and I are moving in with her for the time being. My grandfather is coming to pick up some of my things and baby things, and we've arranged with a medical supplies company to move my son's equipment and to bring me some mobile oxygen tanks. I'm so glad I called her. I feel like we might be free from so much heartache. My grandmother has even agreed to watch him during the day, and I can stay home with him at night now since I won't have to pay rent. I can start saving for a place of my own with my son. Not the a-hole. I'm more concerned why you chose to stay with someone like this than why you hid money. My family was really upset when I got pregnant and not married. Very religious family. So now if I leave him, I'm afraid they'll shun me even more for being a single parent. Honestly, that sounds better than staying with your boyfriend. You're practically raising your child on your own, so it wouldn't be much of a change. Of course it would be a change. She wouldn't have to be paying for his addictions. She wouldn't have to hide money. What a peace of mind that would be. And hopefully OP can find that peace of mind. Not the a-hole. Oh my god, run. Run far away from him. Your premature baby has come home from the NICU on an oxygen tank, and your boyfriend is still chain smoking? I'm not even going to touch the fact that he still feels entitled to your money, despite literally everything else you've written in this post. If you don't leave this deadbeat, we'll see you in a bit when you post about him playing video games all day while you work. Not the a-hole. Posted by user RunRunGray. Titled, Am I the a-hole for wanting to put up a garden fence to prevent my neighbor from mowing my lawn? Odd title, I know. Look, I haven't done it yet, but I want to put up a garden fence on my side of the property line in order to prevent my neighbor from mowing my property. The reasons why are, 1. My neighbor uses a large riding lawnmower to take care of their own yard and often mows a portion of my yard in order to avoid items in their backyard. Trailer parked right by, but not on the property line. Trampoline placed 6 inches from line. 2. About a week ago, they mowed and damaged one of my sprinkler heads. It didn't cause my yard to flood, and I was still able to fix it without having to replace it, but it was still annoying. I saw my neighbor do it, noticed that they did it, and move on. That's all you have to tell me, OP. You're not the a-hole from this point onwards. 3. They recently, within the last 12 months, moved in, and we've waved and said hello to them, but they have ignored us. They are friendly with the other people in the neighborhood, but seem to ignore us and the other neighbors who share a property line with them. 4. They tore out the property boundary stick between our houses and theirs. There is a hole where it was, and I want to place something, anything in that spot before the hole fills in. I want to separate out my assumptions because they're based on my observations, which may be different than what the neighbor is actually doing. Like 2 sides to each story and whatnot. First, I have a feeling they are trying to slowly encroach onto our property. They have the smallest lot and have it full of stuff. Shed, trailer, trampoline boat, etc. And we have the largest lot and keep it pretty empty. Secondly, they don't seem to respect our property since they damaged our sprinkler. Lastly, they haven't been very friendly to us, and I want to create a barrier between us and them. I'm not a large fence person. In fact, based on our city rules, I can't fence a large portion of my yard. I've planted trees between us, but can't have them on the property line. I am allowed to place a small decorative garden fence. For reference, they are those 2 to 3 feet tall metal fences that can be hammered into the ground. They are 100% decorative. I want to place it on our property to prevent them from mowing our yard. I would plant shrubs and flowers next to it so it doesn't look stupid. I've told my family and friends this idea, and they seem to be split on if I'm being a petty a-hole. So, am I? I'm sorry, is trying to protect your yard from damage in a beautiful way petty and a-hole-ish? I don't think so, and I guess you could always just go up to them and ask, hey, could you please stop mowing on my side? And we could see how it goes, but this seems like an idea for people that have social anxiety, and they just want to do a soft approach to keeping them off your lawn. I think that's a good way that doesn't start any confrontation, doesn't cause any stress for you, maybe even makes your garden look a little better. I support this idea, OP. They don't seem to be great people, in my opinion. OP, not the a-hole. Not the a-hole, and I hate neighbors. Fence it immediately. I feel this so much. Had bad neighbors a while ago. One lady in our neighborhood cut tulips my mum had growing in our front yard. Neighbors are horrible, and the good ones are few and far in between. We have neighbors on one side that poisoned all our plants over time so their clothesline would get more sun. We know they did it because on several occasions we caught them in our yard with poison bottles. Also, the head of a large coconut palm fell onto me whilst I was in our paddling pool one summer. When I looked at the tree, there was a cork placed in a hole drilled into it, and the entire head very rarely just falls off in one complete piece. We spoke to our local council and put up the tallest privacy screen we were allowed to. It's a pity because now their clothesline gets absolutely no sun, and they had to put in a second clothesline in the middle of their pristine, manicured lawn. I literally breathed a sigh of relief over the last bit about the clothesline thing backfiring. What kind of complete wretch poisons their neighbors' plants? They really are awful. We've never had any issues with neighbors in the past. My husband thinks it's because the old couple we bought our home off were complete pushovers. They let them dictate pretty much everything regarding the gardens, fencing, etc. Then we moved in and brought small dogs, who are always kept inside unless we're in our yard with them, and we didn't agree with everything they wanted to do. It wasn't obvious at first that they were dying. It was a concerted effort over about 12 months. By the time we realized what was happening, it was too late to save most of the trees, plants, and shrubs that bordered their side of the yard. You know what, OP? You should sneak over at night and poison words and symbols into their lawn. A big ol' peepee. Perchance, can I interest you in a cock and balls, neighbor? Not the a-hole. Simply put, it is your property. I would be remiss if I didn't add, good fences make good neighbors. Also, it's not like there's any kind of relationship to worry about ruining with these rude turds. Posted by user RingAnon432. Titled, Am I the a-hole for not wanting a ring my fiancé already gave to another girl? My now fiancé was engaged a couple of years before we got together, and they broke up and she gave the ring back. We've been together for a few years, and a few days ago, he proposed and I was super excited. The ring looked kind of familiar, and when I asked him where it was from, he said it was the ring he gave to ex-fiancée. I immediately took it off and was like, I don't want a ring you bought for someone else. It wasn't meant for me. He got upset and said it didn't matter, because it's not hers anymore, it's mine. My family and friends are split, saying that I'm the a-hole and I'm justified. I don't want him to spend a whole other $1,000 on a ring for me, but I want a ring that was meant for me, not for someone else. Am I the a-hole? I feel like you're justified in this one, OP. He kept the ring, he told you the ring was from her, years ago. I would feel kind of insulted getting the same ring. I know it's like a little bit of a place of privilege there, but Jesus. No, I would be wearing that ring every day being like, he didn't get this for me. You know, he's just passing it on because he can't be bothered. He doesn't want to get another ring. He doesn't want something that's for me. I feel like in a marriage, it is about you two as partners. And, you know, the ring is symbolic of that relationship. If you're wearing the ring that he meant for another woman, it doesn't feel like a bond with your husband. It feels like an imposter. I would feel like an imposter. I don't blame OP for feeling that way and giving the ring back. Not the a-hole. This is ridiculous. How dare he give you her ring? It's her ring, he meant it for her, bought it for her. How does he think to give you her rejects is okay? You were completely justified, and I would rethink this guy if I were you. Oh hun, you got yourself a clueless one. Not the a-hole, of course. Yeah, wonder why he and the ex broke up. He gave it to another girl before her. He thought, you know what, third time's the charm. My husband had proposed to another girl before we ever met. When we talked about getting married, he knew I wouldn't accept that ring at all, so we picked out our rings together. But he did ask me if I wanted that ring just as a regular piece of jewelry, and I was like, hell no, that's bad juju, and I want nothing to do with it. Not the a-hole. Lol, I don't know why, but this reminded me. My mum gave a family friend her old wedding and engagement rings from divorce. He had them melted down and recast into new rings for his wife. So that was cool upcycling. I had this happen to me. A friend of my fiancé made a comment about not wanting another woman's ring. The thing was, we already were in the process of getting it recast into the ring she designed. My fiancé, now wife, freaked out. The jeweler was a Gigi. He said that most people don't realize, but at least 30% of diamonds and the gold they cast into are recycled. So the probability of you getting a diamond from a ring that wasn't originally worn by a cheater who slept with half of the football team is fairly high. By the way, this didn't happen, it's just an example. Oh wow, definitely not the a-hole. Are you serious? What kind of guy does that? I would be ticked and would have reacted the same way. Lol, my old co-worker's ex did this after they called off the engagement. She happened to run into him a couple years later, and his new fiancé was wearing the same ring from the original engagement. Co-worker commented that it was a nice ring and then walked off laughing. He was a clueless jerk, so it didn't surprise her. Cringe. Posted by user BunnyBucks. Titled, Would I be the a-hole if I don't tell my son-in-law that his child may not be his? Pardon my English, I have been debating myself since I came to know of this secret and would like to go against my daughter's wish. My daughter was found to have some health problems since young. We thought she became better as she grew, but apparently not, as her problems surfaced again after she became a mother and worsened as time passes. We've tried our best to help her, and her husband especially, even though we had doubts about him before in times of crisis. He never left her side and took care of both her and their son. Then there came one time when my daughter poured out her heart to me. She told her that she'd been playing around, quote unquote, before and was not sure if her son belongs to her husband. She was afraid that he would hate her or leave them, so she kept quiet about it. However, after seeing how he stood by her side after her health declined, made her very ashamed about what she did. My daughter told me that if she ever dies, she wants me to tell her husband about the truth and have them do a test of the DNA. She couldn't bear to tell him herself, so I promised her that I will do it. But I didn't realize the day may come so soon. My daughter is now in a coma. She probably may pass any time, and it is then I remembered what she told me. However, I don't want to tell them. Her son is already 7 and her husband loves both of them deeply. There's no need for him to know, and probably no way for him to find out. If I'm the only person she told about this, then the secret can die with me. There is just this lingering feeling of guilt for failing the both of them. I'd like to discuss this with her, but she's barely conscious. Would I be the a-hole if I just kept quiet? I think my daughter may hold it against me if I don't, but as much as they deserve the truth, they are better off not knowing. I very much disagree, OP. I feel like you suck, and I feel like the daughter sucks also for cheating. It's her dying wish for you to tell him that the child may not be his and to get a DNA test. What, are you going to go against the daughter's dying wish? That's a very terrible thing for you to do, OP. I would very much reconsider that. I don't think they're better off not knowing. I feel like it's very much the opposite. I feel like as the father, that would be something I would like to know, in all honesty. But that's just my opinion. You're welcome to do whatever you want, OP, but if you don't tell her, I'm judging you a lot, because you would be the a-hole in this situation. The father is completely innocent in this. You and your daughter, not so much. Your daughter is despicable. Everyone sucks here except the poor child and poor husband. Being sick is no free pass for being an a-hole. It's one thing to cheat and raise a child with someone who you're not sure is the father. That already makes OP's daughter a terrible person. But the way she wants to reveal it to her husband makes it so much worse. She's too chicken to tell him herself, so she emotionally blackmails her mother to do it when she's no longer around to have to deal with the fallout. Her husband will not be able to get angry at her betrayal because he has to mourn her death and help a mourning child at the same time. If the husband can't cope, her kid loses both parents at the same time. It's unbelievably selfish that she'd decide to seriously hurt 3 other people rather than facing the consequences of her actions. And OP is a terrible parent for enabling her. The fact that the daughter even thought about doing that might be because she was too coddled as a sick child. Regardless, after the first conversation, OP should have either told her to come clean or told the husband herself instead of landing them in a situation that cannot possibly have a decent outcome for any of the innocent parties in this. This is why I find deathbed confessions to be absolute bullcrap. You don't get to mess up someone's life and then just leave. That's so crappy. And this is really what it is. The daughter wants to die with a clear conscience, which is incredibly selfish considering all the damage she would do to everyone left behind. I wish I could remember the story where I found this, but it's a response to a confession made just before the person went to war. It means absolutely nothing hours before you plan to die, he interrupts. Water on sand, words written in air. Those have more permanence than repentance followed by suicide by proxy. Not the a-hole. Your daughter is very much the a-hole, but the only thing a paternity test would do now is possibly further traumatize an innocent 7-year-old already faced with losing his mother. Agreed. This poor child will already have enough issues dealing with the death of his mother. I disagree. If it's true, imagine that kid doing an ancestry kit or something one day. With the popularity of online heritage-based DNA testing, people up and down the globe are finding out about all sorts of lies. Regardless, OP should have forced her daughter to tell her husband before, and whatever happens now is a terrible outcome for the only truly innocent people in this story. Honestly, if I were OP, I would write off the kid doing an ancestry kit down the line as a you problem. Father will have an easier time dealing with the fact that the kid isn't his, if that is the case, at any time other than after losing his wife during a global pandemic. Kid deserves to be raised by a father who loves him, and he has one now. It doesn't matter if the kid is biologically his, he had raised him since he was a baby. I'm not going to pass judgment much, but I will say that I don't think I would tell him. If I were him, I wouldn't want to know. His wife is dying. I can only imagine what finding out that his child may not even be his and his wife's infidelity would do to him. If anything, maybe get the test done yourself. If he is the father, then never mention it. But there are other ways they could find out the truth. Let's say they get contacted by a man in a few years who says he thinks he's the girl's actual father. Or they do the 23andMe thing and find out they aren't biologically related. Or the kid needs a kidney to save his life and the father turns out to not be a match. That would be a very awkward conversation with the doctor. Parents are often not matches. It all depends on blood type, and the match is a toss-up of Punnett squares. Alright, this one made me laugh out of surprise. I'm going to include this one just because it's like, what the? Lamau? Today I learned that cheating and lying is okay as long as it's a dying woman. You are all disgusting just like OP's daughter. Yikes. I haven't passed judgment and won't because this is crazy, but to be fair, the other comments are about the husband and not about letting the wife get away with infidelity. They're saying that his wife is already dying and he's dealing with a lot, so telling him right now would fudging crush his soul. Yeah, he deserves to know, duh, but this isn't black and white. You got that as well? The mental gymnastics in this thread. How people can, with a straight face, say that it's right to keep this information from the son-in-law. Paternity fraud is an evil thing to do. But you know what? It don't matter. Just keep the poor chump paying for the daughter's crappy decisions. But it's not the kid's fault. Yeah, it ain't. It ain't the son-in-law's fault either. Life sucks. Buy a helmet. Well, I know someone whose brother committed suicide upon finding out that he wasn't the father of his 2-year-old daughter, along with the fact that his wife had cheated on him. All you guys think about is the truth, and not how it'll affect the people it hurts. Sure, I do agree that the son-in-law deserves to know the truth eventually, but not at such a fragile time right now, especially when it could be all for naught, because he might be the father after all. Anecdotal evidence means absolutely nothing. Oh my god, the comments are so heated. Oh my god. Posted by user ThrowRA titled, Am I the a-hole for yelling and embarrassing my partner for playing with himself? So this past week, it was that time of the month again. Sometimes mine are really bad and last more than a week. It was that way this time. Well, my husband had been in the bathroom for a really long time. I knocked and he said he'd be out soon. I tried to open the door and to my surprise, it was unlocked. I walked in and was a little disgusted at what I saw. He was touching himself. He quickly stopped when I opened the door. I was shocked and asked him what he was doing. He looked really embarrassed and said, I think you already know. I told him this was unacceptable and just gross for him to do this, especially behind my back. He assured me that he wasn't watching porn and was instead looking at pictures of me while doing it. Nonetheless, I still said that I didn't like him doing this and requested that he stop immediately. He agreed, but has yet to be normal around me since then. He seems to be very embarrassed. In my point of view, I believe that what I said and did was completely warranted, but with his reaction, I wanted to see what other people's opinions were on this. Did I handle this the wrong way? Was I being an a-hole? Come on, is a man not allowed to have some privacy, have some time to himself, investigate the bishop and his misdoings? Reunite with an old acquaintance of his, perchance? Is it really disgusting that your husband was doing that? Obviously, you don't want to have sex on your period, and that's your prerogative. Everyone's fine to do that. But if he wants to get off, can a man not get off? Assaulting him for that verbally and embarrassing him and making him feel less than. It's not yours or anyone's place to do that. And trust me, I've read the r/dead bedroom subreddits. I know it's actually quite a common thing in some relationships. At least in that subreddit, it's a very depressing subreddit. But yeah, no, you were being the a-hole in this situation. You did handle it the wrong way, OP, I'm sorry to say. Complete you're the a-hole. He was touching himself. He doesn't need your consent or anyone else's to do so, even if he was watching porn. You're the a-hole. Just because you're in a relationship with someone doesn't mean they get to dictate whether or not they masturbate. This seems like very controlling behavior. I don't care what other people's opinions are, or what the established rules are to the relationship you've entered into. People who don't let their partners masturbate are the worst. Wait, there are people who don't actually let their partners masturbate? What? This is the first time I've ever heard of that wild concept. I've seen it a bunch, and I've also seen Am I the A-hole threads where people have been ticked that their partner is masturbating, and instead being like, OP, you suck, the commenters are like, well, then you aren't compatible and should break up to find someone who shares your views. Which, I'll be real, it's not wrong sometimes. If you're not compatible sexually and your partner takes it to the point where they're shunning you, it's not wrong to go find someone you're actually compatible with. Posted by user Sarah Tonwi, titled, Am I the a-hole for cutting off my daughter's allowance? My 37 female husband, 36, of 2 years, and the stepfather of my daughter was recently banned from Uber. The problem is, he works as a DJ, and part of his job description is partying into the early hours of the next day. By the end of his last gig, he's cranky, sweaty, and in no condition to drive. Unfortunately for us, my job is in the startup field, and often involves late-night projects, in which my teammates and I are also drinking a lot to keep morale up. The combination of a stressed-out me and an overly critical version of my husband at 3 a.m. isn't a good one. Meanwhile, my daughter, 16, recently got her driver's license. So I asked that she drive him to his gigs and pick him up. Pretty simple task, especially since it's summer and she'd be up anyway. Right away, my husband told me she started complaining if she feels that he's going to too many venues for one night, or if he smells a certain way, or is telling her she's driving too quickly. Last Friday, I was away on a business trip and only got back this morning. The moment I walk in the door, my daughter says she had to wait until 4 a.m. 2 nights in a row and that she was done. My husband tells me my daughter was purposely driving unsteadily and calling him below-the-belt insults. So I go up to her room and remind her that our jobs provide her with her decent allowance and that we barely even ask her to do other chores. When she said she's not picking him up anymore, I ended up taking away her allowance. Her friend's mum called me asking me why I was doing this. My daughter had texted saying she couldn't buy her a 16th birthday present for the friend's party anymore, and I explained it was a family matter. Am I the a-hole? I feel since my daughter is old enough, she needs to contribute to help her parents out, and if she cared enough about the family, she'd be offering to make our lives easier. It's not like my husband was just going out partying, he's out there trying to earn an income. I disagree with you guys as parents keeping your 16-year-old daughter out there till 4 a.m., in the car by herself, out in nightclubbing districts. It's not only unsafe, and it's unfair on her. Do you mean by your husband being cranky, sweaty, and in no condition to drive, as in he's boozing himself up while he's doing these DJ sets out in clubs? That kind of sounds like a him problem, not a your daughter problem to solve, OP. He's an adult, he should be conducting himself accordingly and making sure that he's able to drive himself home after the end of his shifts. That's not on your 16-year-old daughter to solve, and it's not cool to cut off her allowance just because she doesn't want to stay out there till 4 a.m. and deal with him? No, you're the a-hole. Your daughter is a kid, not a 4 a.m. taxi service. If your husband is such an a-hole that he got banned from Uber, I don't blame her for not wanting to drive him around. Yeah, you completely skimmed over the banned from Uber part. What kind of a-hole gets banned from Uber? You're the a-hole. And why is he not using one of the literally other dozen pickup apps? Lyft is a thing. Hell, even old school taxis exist. You're the a-hole. Your husband and you need to get your alcoholism under control. Staying up late for work is no excuse to drink profusely. Relying on a child to clean up your issues is wrong. Forcing a child to drive her drunk, smelly, belligerent stepfather around at 4 a.m. is awful. This part kills me. It's in no way a requirement that a DJ gets so drunk while working that they can't drive. I don't know what's more ridiculous, that he can't seem to not get belligerently drunk every single night, surely that affects his work performance, or that the mother is trying to excuse her daily drunkenness on working on late projects. Last time I checked, if you're trying to stay up late for a project, you are slamming back coffee and energy drinks, not alcohol, which is a literal depressant. Posted by user Throw23Away. Titled, Am I the a-hole for reducing my daughter's already limited free time? My 43 male daughter, 16 female, is currently studying 8 hours per day for her college tests. I am very strict with her study time and make sure she is indeed studying and not wasting time, since she wants to pass in a very hard course. That leaves her with about 4 hours of free time, where I used to let her do whatever she wanted. She likes to watch drama series and browse on her social media mainly. Recently, I've begun thinking that she's spending way too much time doing these things that won't help her get into college, so I decided to do a new rule, where she needs to read in order to get time with her electronics. Basically, if she reads for an hour, she can use her phone, or other electronics for an hour as well. Of course, she hated this rule, and is currently very upset at me, saying I reduced her already limited free time, and that doing this won't help her at all. It will only add more stress. We are both very short-tempered, and we can't talk reasonably without arguing, so I decided to ask here to see if I'm on the wrong side. I do want her to have time to do what she wants, but I also want her to read the books that are valuable for her college tests. Here in my country, there's a list of mandatory books that you need to read for the tests. Am I really the a-hole here? Is she just being dramatic? Edit. It's good to know that we're not from the US. Here where I live, college tests don't offer a lot of second chances. I know that in the US you have to have a pre-med degree or something like that. Here you just have to pass this extremely hard and competitive test in order to go to med school. That's why she has to study so much. The grade she has to get in order to pass is very high. In her previous years of high school, she studied much less. She's okay with that, just to clarify, not forcing this on her either. Edit. Just to clarify a few things, she does want to study medicine. I didn't force that on her, she chose it on her own. She does take breaks in between. It's not 8 hours straight, it's 4 hours in the morning with 30 minutes as a break, 1 hour for lunch, 4 hours in the afternoon, 30 minutes break as well. Sorry for not clarifying that. Edit. There's a lot of people criticizing my relationship with my daughter. I realized I was in the wrong and talked to her so that we could work a better schedule that incorporates her reading and still gives her time to do what she likes. We always work together on her schedules. Sometimes I'm a little overbearing, and I do realize that now. Please don't make such rude comments, as we actually get along pretty well. I meant well and just wanted her to focus. Thank you for changing my mind. Edit. Since there's a lot of people asking, we're from Brazil. Medicine is our most competitive subject. You have to practically ace a test called ENEM, our equivalent to SATs, in order to get a slight chance to get in. 8 hours is actually pretty uncommon here. Most students who want to go do a lot more than what I think is reasonable and do so for more than 1 year in order to pass. I feel like you're putting unnecessary restrictions on your daughter. If she wants to pass this test, she can do that on her own time. A little overbearing is a little bit of an understatement in this situation, OP. Feel like you're being a lot overbearing. I understand that it's a hard test to get into, but she's going to crack under the pressure if you're not allowing her time to cool off and time to, walk away from that stress of studying for a bit. I feel like you do lack empathy for her in this situation because I don't feel like you can put yourselves in her shoes. Don't know if you're understanding the stress that she's under, OP. But the fact that you realize you're an a-hole is good. And thank God you're working to help her pass that test now when everyone's flamed you. Still, you're the a-hole. This is a stellar way to ensure that you don't have a relationship with your daughter once she moves out. She's already studying 8 hours a day. That's more than enough. Let her have her 4 hours to allow her brain to decompress however she wants. Our brain needs to relax after we've loaded them with information. I'll just say this. This isn't the right way to learn. This is exactly what not to do. You're the a-hole. I'm also from a country where the national exams are pretty much the ones that count towards college, and sorry, I just can't agree. It's wrong from an educational point of view, and she won't get anything out of cramming other than forgetting everything in a few days due to stress. OP, you should go on Coursera and watch this course, Learning How to Learn, Powerful Mental Tools to Help You Master Tough Subjects. It's quite helpful, and it gives you the right information about studying based on neurological functioning. Also, your daughter could also benefit from seeing it. Spoiler alert, doing something completely different, such as a hobby or doing sports, does help consolidate the information. I just copy-pasted that one. If you guys want to watch that, it's actually for free on Vimeo, surprisingly. I'm probably going to watch it later just in my downtime so I can help my kids in the future. I feel like that's a good thing to do. Just Google that phrase and you'll find the Vimeo video if you want to watch it. Isn't OP pushing her to not cram by studying more in the months leading up to the test instead of right before? It's still cramming if she's doing 12 hours a day. In my personal experience, this is also a great way to make her hate studying and not want to do it willingly when she is no longer forced to. If you keep this up, OP, you will be lucky if her grades only tank for a semester or two. Studying will have to be something that she, if not enjoys, at least feels comfortable doing so she can maintain her grades. That freedom of moving out and being able to watch her dramas whenever she wants will very likely be too tempting to not go overboard with at first. Let her find her own equilibrium, OP. She seems like she's pretty smart and can figure out a balance if you stop essentially making studying a punishment. You're the a-hole. You're the a-hole. Studying is more effective with breaks. If you're concerned about making sure she reads the books, then break up her study time with some reading. But 4 hours a day is very little time to decompress from everything, and forcing her to spend yet more time working will only add to her tension. It will not help her learn. And OP says, I hear you. I will talk to her and try to sort something out. Thank you, OP. Very cool. Posted by user AmiTheA Gumball. Titled, Am I the a-hole for selling my son's PS3? I, 42 male, recently bought a PS4 for my son, 13 male. It cost around $350 dues. After I bought the PS4, I sold my son's PS3 since he had a new video game. He doesn't need it anymore, and that's what I felt. But when my son found out that I'd sold his PS3, he was livid. He called me names and went to the bedroom. He even refused to open the new PS4 that I'd bought for him. His mother, my ex, told me that I was an a-hole for selling the PS3 without asking him. But it was me who bought it for him, and I had every right to sell it. Am I the a-hole for selling the PS3? Man, that just brings back memories from back in the day. I had a friend, Ziggy. He had an Xbox, and we were playing Call of Duty World at War on it, just constantly playing the zombies maps over and over again. And one day we go over to play, again, like always, and the Xbox is just gone. His dad was just like, I need the money, I'm selling your Xbox. So that was a depressing day. I think his dad used it for drugs, but never know with that household. There's a ping pong table that appeared one day and disappeared the next, so you never know with that household. But anyway, I felt like the dad was an a-hole in that situation, so I stand by it in this one. You don't just sell the PS3 without talking to the son first. You pulled a quick one on him, and he obviously liked his PS3, even though it's like, why do you have a PS3 and a PS4? Maybe he liked his PS3 a lot. I don't know. Maybe you should have talked to your son before selling it, OP. That would have been a smart thing to do. I'm sure you had every right to sell it, but then he also has every right to his emotions from you selling it. You're the a-hole. Edit. I know that I'm an a-hole for selling his PS3 and intend to get it back if possible. and many of you pointing me out as an abusive parent. Not every parent is perfect, and they have their flaws. Like being abusive. Cut it with bringing up red flags and abusive parents into the question. I value my son's happiness more than anything, and do not please imply the opposite. Edit 2. Stop messaging me saying that I'm a bad father, and my son deserves better. It hurts, okay? Yes, it hurts to be called out. That's kind of what you get for being a sucky parent, I'm sorry. You're the a-hole. You can't play PS3 games on a PS4. You might have bought it, but it was his. Parents like you need to learn boundaries and communicate with words. Not only all this, but literally all his saved game data was on there. He might have games he'd been playing for a long time with progress that he was proud of just tossed away in an instant. Or that one dude racing his dead dad's ghost from the save file. Oh god. Someone says I don't get the reference. It was a racing game story. Sometimes there's ghosts of the past racer that you have to beat to overwrite. In the story, OP's dad loved the game but died recently. He left the ghost on the game. OP would play the game and slowly get better than the ghost, but would always stop before the finish line so he could always play with his dad. That's tragic, oh my god. Anyway, sorry for the detour. Kick to the Rib says, okay, listen here OP. There are multiple reasons why you're the a-hole. 1. PS3 games cannot be played on a PS4 system. If you sold all of his PS3 games as well, then you just gave perfectly viable games away, and even if he already beat the games, they're still perfectly viable to play. But he can't because you gave away the same system that runs them. 2. Parents like you should learn the difference between a gift and property. You gave your son the PS3, it was a gift. So even though you paid for it, it is his. And now I'm not sure about the laws of your country, so maybe he isn't legally able to own possessions because he's a minor, but if that's how you think about your child, then you have more issues than just having sold his PS3. Bottom line is you disrespected your son by giving away his game console or selling his game console. Doesn't really matter. His game console is gone because of you, he's hurt by that, so fix it by talking to your child. As other commenters have already said, communicate with your child. Posted by user Lena JG. Titled, Am I the a-hole for claiming I'm infertile when I'm actually not? I, female 22, work in a small goldsmithy. It's just me, my boss, male 54, and from time to time an older guy, E. comes around and helps us repairing watches. E. is genuinely a nice person. Is this wordplay for idiot? E. But he is sexist, which really annoys me for obvious reasons. Every time I wear a wide dress or a shirt that's oversized, he asks me if I'm pregnant. Not in a "you're fat" way. I told him multiple times to stop, because it makes me uncomfortable and I feel like it's none of his business, and also it's an inappropriate question. So today he asked me again, and I finally had enough and told him no, I'm infertile. Because I knew this would shock him and I wanted to teach him a lesson about asking inappropriate questions to people you barely know. Like, I'm not infertile, but I could be. He looked at me in shock and mumbled, "Huh, really?" And I said no, but I bet you feel stupid now. Now, both my boss and him are angry because they think I crossed a line and that I should show some respect because he's old. I think if I have to listen to his bullcrap, he has to listen to mine as well. Am I the a-hole? Nah, not the a-hole. Old men need to learn they can't talk to young women like this. It's completely inappropriate, and you even told him before that it makes you uncomfortable, and he still continued. You didn't cross a line, but he did every time he asked you about being pregnant. Agreed. When my parents were struggling with fertility issues, someone at a party was pressuring them to explain why they hadn't had any kids. My mum didn't want to get into the whole multiple miscarriages, 12 before I was born FYI, thing, and tried to get him to back off. But nope, he kept pushing. The drinking probably didn't help. Finally, she gave up and said, "Well, it's because I was biologically born a man. I've always been a woman deep down, and have always known I was supposed to be a woman, but I wasn't born that way, and I'm afraid I can't have children because of it." This was way back before being transgender was a well-known thing, but my mum's was ahead of a lot of people in understanding and supporting trans rights. Some might think it was inappropriate. Apparently my grandpa nearly spit his drink out, but this guy would not shut up, and she didn't want to have to share her story of her infertility with him. After she said it, he finally shut up, though apparently he kept staring at her throughout the night. The thing is, she could have been born a man, and OP could have been infertile. Besides it not being your business, that's why you don't ask. Because an innocent question can be anything but, depending on what someone's going through. No word on what he thought when he found out she was pregnant, or if he ever did. I don't know how close he is to the family. I think this was at a wedding or something. Your mum sounds awesome, and I totally agree with not the a-hole. I have PCOS and most likely can't have children because of it, or I would have to undergo many treatments and even surgery to have a chance to have some. When people ask me about having kids and I explain it to them, they always pressure me about it, come up with solutions, like surrogacy, etc., and tell me to not give up hope and to try everything. As if having biological children is the only purpose of a woman. If I would want to have kids in the future, I would rather adopt instead of trying for years and undergoing many medical treatments for a chance of getting pregnant. Yeah, what he did say was incredibly insensitive. Honestly, can't back anything that old man said. Actually, it's genuinely so rude to say that, and it's definitely one way to put it in perspective by OP saying that, and I completely back OP for shutting them down in the best way they could. Obviously, telling him to stop and trying to get him to stop multiple times wasn't effective. We had to take a, harsher route. Could have been true. The old man could have been doing some big mental damage without him not even realizing, so OP definitely not the a-hole in this situation. Posted by user DogLady334, titled, "Am I the a-hole for losing my crap when my parents decided to get a dog after I moved out? I've always wanted a dog. From when I was 9 to when I was 16, I asked for a dog every birthday and Christmas. But I was always shut down, saying it was not possible. I just stopped asking after that. I'm 10 years older than my younger siblings. I moved out a month ago to my own place after I graduated college and got a job. I excitedly told my parents how now I can finally get the dog I wanted, and I had an appointment with the shelter next week. Then my mum goes, 'Looks like your new puppy is gonna have a sister.' I literally freaked out a little, thinking my mother was having another kid. Instead, I found out that they'd reserved a puppy with a breeder, and were going to pick her up in a month. When I tell you I lost my crap, I meant it. I went full exorcist and was screaming at them like a madwoman. Like, every resentment I had just erupted, and I called them some really mean stuff. My parents and I were in tears by the end of it. I've refused to talk to them since. Yesterday, I got a text from my 13-year-old calling me a tramp because my parents were cancelling the puppy reservation. I then sent them a message in the family WhatsApp group saying that if their goal was to completely exclude me from the family, then congratulations, they've succeeded. I then left the group and blocked my parents. My dad knocked on my door last night begging me to forgive them and to please give them a chance to talk. I refused to let them in. Am I the a-hole? This is a very messy family situation. I don't really know where to go with this one. There's obviously a huge past you have with them, and they've probably given you a lot of shtick and made a huge deal about a dog, and then they get a dog and you feel betrayed. I think there was a bit of an overreaction there by you to scream at them like that. Obviously, you can't be blamed for an emotional response to something that's obviously very heavy on your mind. But honestly, by the sounds of it, it doesn't seem like a life or death situation. It's not a make or break. I feel like you cutting them off like that is the wrong thing to do. So yeah, you and your parents have both made mistakes here. They're opening up to you. They're apologizing. They want you to forgive them. I feel like it's not that bad. I feel like this is a redeeming situation. Everyone sucks here regardless. Everyone sucks here. It sounds like the dog was sort of a final straw in a lifetime of being treated differently than your siblings. You were right to call them out, but maybe not in the extreme fashion you did. The cancellation of the deposit with the breeder shows at least some self-awareness that there was some truth in the things that you said. It's okay to be mad and to need space, but you may want to address the larger issues at play, but in your own time. OP replies, honestly, this has been building for a time. I was clearly unplanned, and my parents didn't know what they were doing. I'm resentful that they're better parents to my siblings. You're right, I think I need space from them for some time. You have every right to feel some resentment if you have been treated differently all your life, but don't take it out on your siblings. It's not their fault. If they end up not getting a dog now, it will unlikely have much impact on your life, but it will punish your siblings for simply being born 10 years later than you when your parents had matured. You're not wrong, but OP isn't responsible for the siblings not getting a dog. This is on the parents and no one else. I don't disagree that it's the parents' responsibility, but really, what are they supposed to do from here? Still get a dog and fear OP will never speak to them again? And from their reactions in the post, it appears to me that they do care about keeping a relationship with OP. Or not get the dog and punish the younger siblings. For what it's worth, I think it would be crueler to say the children can have a dog, put down a deposit, and then do a complete U-turn, than tell OP that they couldn't have a dog due to circumstances. What does OP want to happen now? I agree, they should have followed through on getting a dog, since they've come so far already. But again, I don't think this is OP's doing. I think given some time they could have repaired the relationship with OP while also getting the dog. They further alienated OP by backing out and blaming them for it, in my opinion. But hey, I'm just a random Redditor. I don't know these people. Everyone sucks here, but hear me out. Just because they didn't know what they were doing when raising you isn't a reason to cut them out. Getting your lifelong wish after you moved out is such a wang move. No words are strong enough. They just might be that emotionally dumb. But people should be encouraged to grow if possible. And the only way is two-way communication. And they are quite visibly sorry, and judging by all their actions, did not intend to hurt you. Intent and all that. You are not the absolute worst for blowing up, because it seems like the pressure really blew the cap off. You are absolutely allowed to be hurt and take time for yourself and all that jazz. You even have the right to go no contact. But you are the absolute cold soggy donut for hurting them back intentionally. That crap is never on, because you wanted to hurt them, so you did. The 13-year-old gets a pass for this because they're 13 and their brain is just nope right now. We judge others by their actions and ourselves by our intentions. Figure out what you're intending with your actions, then check whether your actions will actually get there. Posted by user Preschool Teacher Throw, titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my brother that my niece not knowing things isn't cute? I am a preschool teacher. My niece, 4, has really struggled to learn her letters and numbers, mostly because my brother and sister-in-law think that it's the school's responsibility. I try to teach her when I see her, but I've explained she needs to be ready for kindergarten next year. Most of my class knows their ABCs, can count up to a certain number, etc. Niece has no diagnosed learning disabilities, and when I teach her, she's attentive and wants to learn. It just doesn't stick because I don't see her often, and brother and sister-in-law do screw all. My brother and sister-in-law also think it's cute when she miscounts when playing a game, or when she gets a letter wrong. I don't play along and redirect her to learn. I recently told my brother again that he needs to get on top of teaching her. He shrugged me off. I said her not knowing things wasn't cute, and that her charm won't carry her in life. This offended him, and he told me that I was insulting his child. I said no, it's not her fault, it's on him. Now we're not speaking. My mum says I should apologize. I don't think so. Am I the a-hole? I don't think you're an a-hole for speaking up and trying to help the child. I think you're a saint for doing it. I think you understand the brother and the sister-in-law. And I don't think there is any good way of going about this one if they're going to be in such denial and stonewall you every time you try to do anything for this kid. You've obviously tried to lead by example while playing along and redirecting her learning, and they continue to shrug you off. I don't want to say it's a lost cause, but it doesn't look great. If they've gone 4 years of stunting her growth in her most vital stages of learning, it really doesn't speak wonders of these parents, I'm not gonna lie. I don't think you're the a-hole. I feel really bad for the kid. Not the a-hole. This is a form of neglect which she will have a disadvantage because of for the rest of her life. Just wanted to validate this. My cousin went through something similar when she was really little. My aunt thought it was cute to baby talk her constantly and rewarded her for using cutesy terms to ask for and describe things. So, she starts kindergarten and her teacher notices something wrong and refers her to a speech pathologist and the pediatrician because she thinks my cousin must have some physical problem with her mouth and ears, or some cognitive problem that needs help. My aunt, raging, finally gets her checked out, and nope, everything's a-okay. My cousin was just talking that way because it's all she knew and because her mum rewarded it. She got better with a little additional help in school, but it set her back and made her feel different than the other kids, and for no reason. Not the a-hole for trying to prevent that kind of thing. That's bizarre. There are a few cute things my 4-year-old says that I'm not correcting just yet. She calls breakable/glass things glassable, and if she wants a cup of milk, she calls it a plastic of milk, because her cups aren't glass, they're plastic. But baby talking to the point of others thinking there's a speech delay? Crazy. Those are such adorable terms. Aww. I know, right? I love it. She's generally very precocious and acts older than she is, so I'm embracing the cute things she does when she takes a break from being a sassy butthead. Not the a-hole. Teacher here. 2 important factors are 1. Is the kid watching Sesame Street during the day? And 2. Is the parent even trying to sing the alphabet with them? The biggest factor for a child's growth is that the parents are trying something to show an interest in their kid. His "let the school handle it" is starting his kid off at a disadvantage. Tell him at least to have the kid watch Sesame Street. I know my niece watches a lot of TV, but I don't think she watches Sesame Street. Sister-in-law is home with her all day, which I get is a hard job, but typically she does nothing with my niece. Niece plays or watches Paw Patrol. Part of being a stay-at-home parent is teaching your kids the basics. My kids both had speech issues, and they still learned their ABCs, numbers, colors, etc. from my husband, with me reinforcing it when I was home. And that was with 2 small children. If she's being raised by the TV with a stay-at-home mum, there's some serious issues. I was the oldest of 3 with a stay-at-home mum, and she always kept my brothers and I learning in some capacity. She didn't simplify her speech around us, but she would stop and explain if we were confused. She would happily read articles with us, and she would explain higher-level concepts to us by breaking them down. I can't thank her enough for being so diligent in doing all of that, because the advantage of having parents invested in their children's education is incalculable. Teacher here. Soft, you're the a-hole. Your intentions are good, but I personally feel, which will be unpopular with some due to the super intensive American learning culture, that no kid will fall behind from preschool. If a child is being exposed to positive and correct learning in school, he or she will learn when ready. I've seen this over and over, and I hate when parents try to force learning on super young kids. Just because they don't go by your methodology doesn't make them wrong, and she is their kid. There's lots of you're the a-holes coming down here with lots of very long explanations, and I agree with them also. I didn't know too much about kids' education and learning myself, so I'm coming from a place of ignorance when I give my not the a-hole judgment. Posted by user Della Puta, titled, Am I the a-hole for walking out of a gender reveal party? My wife, 34, and I, 33, are having our second child. We have a daughter who's 5. She's been grouchy her whole pregnancy, so her sister offered to plan her a gender reveal party. The plan was that all the food and decorations would be blue or pink, and in the end, we'd get one of those special sparklers that would light up in either blue or pink to reveal the gender. We went to the doctor and got her to write the result in a folded piece of paper that we passed over to her sister without looking. So, flash forward to the day of the party, and the moment of truth comes, and the sparkler turns out to be pink for a girl. I don't know what came over me, but all I felt at that moment was very bitter disappointment. To be honest, all I was hoping for baby number 2 is to be able to toss a ball around with him and coach Little League, or watch him go on Boy Scouts camping trips. I know my daughter is only 5, but I've already started to deal with the dramas of being a father of a girl, and the thought of having to double up now on the neuroticism was harrowing. I grew up in a house with 3 older boys and 1 younger sister. I can't imagine seeing myself be outnumbered. My wife grabbed my arm as people were approaching us to say their congratulations and said I need to look happier. At that moment, I just snapped. I shook my head and walked out to my car. We came separately and drove to my sister's, 21 female, house. I start getting texts from my sister-in-law and my wife saying way to reenact their dad leaving their mum when they were 10 and 12. Oh, God. I felt like that accusation was unfair and that I just needed some time alone. I didn't ask to be flabbergasted, it just happened. And I don't think it's fair that they would have demanded I smile and nod for the next couple of hours. Am I the a-hole? Come on. Yes, you're the a-hole, come on. I get where you're coming from, I do. But it doesn't outweigh the actions that you've taken. In my personal opinion, it's unacceptable the actions that you took. I know why you did them, and at the same time I don't know why you did them. It's very selfish of you to do that. You're bringing a child into the world, and you don't want to deal with the neuroticism of a woman. Why have a kid? Why take the chance then if you don't want to raise a girl? So many questions can be brought up here. Your feelings aren't invalid, but you've hurt more people by doing this. Way more people. Sometimes it's true. You just have to suck it up, smile, put on a face, and deal with it later. It's what everyone does. You're the a-hole. And to do with that part about the Boy Scouts and kicking a ball around, no one's stopping you from tossing a ball with your daughter, or from camping with them, or encouraging them to participate in sports. You are the one stopping them from this. My thoughts exactly. Doesn't matter what gender your child is born, you can still play games and bond. The problem here is OP's attitude to girls and women in general. This attitude that OP has reinforces many toxic aspects of our society. If OP comes to find they don't feel a connection with their kids when they're older, I would guess it's probably OP's fault. Everyone knows girls can't throw, right? And will run screaming at the sight of their first bug on a camping trip. Shock horror. Dude is a huge a-hole for not bothering to come to terms with the fact his child might not be able to join the magical sausage club with him. The odds were only ever 50% in his favor, so there was a good chance he was going to be disappointed. I just told my daughter to give up her softball scholarship since she can't throw, and I'm selling my kayaks and trashing all my outdoor gear since my girly bits prevent me from the ability to use them. Forgot to add, you're the a-hole. And how the hell does someone feel outnumbered by your own daughters and wife? They're on your team, not against you. OP needs to do some deep digging, because it sounds like he's not ready to be a father if his love is conditional on whether he has a boy or girl. Really sad situation. Maybe if his dreams come true, one or maybe both of his daughters will decide to go female to male and will both go pro MLB, earn their Eagle Scouts, and be instantly drama-free, and he can finally be proud. The neuroticism part really got me. Like, 5-year-olds are famous for being stoic and calm at all times, bastions of emotional control they are. All kids of every gender are feelings tornadoes. Plus, big manly OP is the one storming off like a toddler. All the women kept it together. You're the a-hole and a ridiculous sexist. The neuroticism you're experiencing from your 5-year-old? Are you kidding? Get over yourself. As hard as your life is being a girl dad, being an actual girl is much harder, mostly due to men like you. You're afraid of being outnumbered? Maybe try learning to respect women and girls so you don't have to be afraid of them. You need therapy. Posted by user In Between Student. Titled, Am I the a-hole for blaming my mother for my infertility? I have had bad periods ever since I was 14. With bad, I mean vomiting, cramps that make me cry, diarrhea whenever I eat something. When I was 13, I begged my mother to see a gynecologist for this, and she agreed. I told him that surely this wasn't normal, and that I wanted him to take a closer look. He basically told me that some girls are in more pain than others, and that I'll get used to it eventually. My mother was present. After that, she didn't let me see another doctor about the issue, and told me that he had gone to med school and he knew best. I didn't question it from then on. My mum always said I had a low pain tolerance. My obgyn says it was normal, so it was clearly my problem, right? Still, the pain persisted, and my mum wasn't any help. She screamed at me when I was sent home from school because I cried so hard during class. She rolled her eyes when I asked for ibuprofen. She believes in homeopathy, which is fine, but wasn't successful with me, and made fun of my dramatic outbursts whenever I told her I couldn't go to a family gathering because it hurt so much. She was a loving mother otherwise, but she just never believed me when I said I was hurt, even when it wasn't about my period. I almost died of pneumonia when I was 16 after getting told for a week straight that I didn't have to go to a doctor and had just caught a cold, but that's for another time. Or that I needed to see another obgyn. I'm 20 now and moved out 2 months ago, and the first thing I did was go to a different doctor. I don't want to go into detail, but I have a rare-ish condition that causes my symptoms. It makes me infertile. I'm now in a stage where it isn't treatable anymore, and I won't ever be able to get children. Not anymore. The thing that's most heartbreaking to me is that he said that it would have been treatable had I come 2 or 3 years sooner. So, if my mother had taken me to another doctor when I asked her, I'd probably still be fertile. It was hard to swallow. Yesterday, I was visiting my mother, and surprise, I got my period. I told her I needed to go because my period was starting. Of course, she tried to give me crap for it again, and I completely blew up on her. Telling her how I could never have children because of her, how she should have listened to me instead of blaming me for my own pain. My sister told me later that I was an a-hole for blaming her when she couldn't have known about my condition. I am aware that I could have gone to the doctor sooner, but back then, she was paying for my medical bills, and if she would have noticed me making appointments on my own, it would have caused a fight. Also, I was told throughout everything it was normal and that I was being dramatic. I didn't know any better. I feel like it would have been her responsibility to believe me that it was really bad and allow me to seek a second opinion. Not the a-hole. It's a parent's responsibility to advocate for and protect their children. You were in crippling pain, she brushed you off. Over and over. I'm so sorry, OP. She deserved that for not hearing you. She deserved it big time. Fudging neglected her daughter's medical needs and deserved every bit of it. Sorry, OP. My son a few months ago told me in the morning, "Mummy, my ear hurts." Well, there goes the plan for the day. To the pediatrician we go. Doctor asks him which ear, and he points to the right one. Raging ear infection. A round of amoxicillin later, and he's fine. Kiddo was 4.5 at the time. OP, what your mum did was horrible. I've always had worse periods than my mother, but she took me seriously. She never acted like my pain wasn't real, even though she was a unicorn that never had pain and only had her period for 2 days, while I was lucky to be done in 5. Posted by user SnooDonuts3102. Titled, Am I the a-hole for not letting my friend die at my place? I have an 8-bedroom house. I live alone. He lives in a 2-bedroom house with his family. He has maybe 1 month left to live. His family suggested that he live his last few days in my place due to the amount of space that I have. Now, as much as I love the fella, I'm not a fan of him spending his last few days in my place. For starters, 1, it reduces the value of the home. Where I live, you legally have to disclose somebody died on the property. 2, I have to deal with the fact that my friend died in my home emotionally. And 3, ghosts, although that one's up in the air. Everybody seems to think I'm a dick for not allowing my friend to spend his last month or so in comfort. I am more than happy to pay for hospice care, or even rent a small property until he dies. I just do not want him dying on my land. Honestly, I think this is going to end up causing a rift after his passing. He seems to understand, but his family do not. They want me not coming to the funeral of my best mate. Am I the a-hole? What a ridiculous request from the family. Oh, we don't want our son dying in our care or surrounded by his loved family. We want him dying in an empty 8-room house with his best mate, because that's the way to go. Hallelujah, brother. I genuinely cannot comprehend that. That family is disconnected from reality. Wouldn't you want to die surrounded by family rather than just your best mate? I don't get the family dynamic going on here. From surface level, seems very loopy to me. I think Obi's not the a-hole for this one. Not the a-hole. His family is angry with you, even though they've decided to shirk the responsibility of seeing him through his final days onto you? Absolutely not. These people are ridiculous a-holes of epic proportions. Most insurance policies cover hospice facilities. My dad passed in a hospice facility, and it was the best possible place. There are nurses there who specialize in making people comfortable. The doctor was so respectful. I don't know why they'd want to use somebody's house when there are nice, quiet places staffed for this thing. Edit. Comments below are saying Medicare doesn't cover hospice in facility. My dad has a Medicare Advantage plan, so I'm wondering if this is different. My grandmother also passed in a hospice facility. Both situations were imminent death and transferred from hospitals. There are some hospice people posting below who know more. Anyway, still highly recommend these places. Right now in some places, dying in a hospital means dying alone. Many hospitals aren't allowing visitors or are extremely limiting visits. Plus, all the staff are suiting up in PPE, which can make care feel incredibly dehumanizing. It changes the choice a lot. A hospice facility is not a hospital. While hospice can be performed anywhere, a hospice facility is usually in its own building. The ones I've seen are very quiet and clean, and they look more home-like. The staff there only does end-of-life care. If it's a non-COVID death, at least in my state, you can have visitors in facilities. It's worth thinking about. Not the a-hole. That's a crazy request, and you'd be completely in your right to refuse. Feel so sorry for your friend being shrugged off by his family in the last days of his life. It's not so crazy considering OP also offered to rent somewhere or pay for his hospice care for his friend. It's a really crappy situation all round, but in the end, the friend will be dead, and OP will be alive and have to deal with the consequences emotionally and monetarily. Not the a-hole. Posted by user TollFarmer5734, titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to do any more planning for my wedding until my fiancé apologizes for sending pictures of my dick to her friends years ago? I found out from one of my friends who was dating one of my girlfriend's friends. They had been talking about our engagement, and his girlfriend made a comment about how unlucky my girlfriend was to love someone that was incompatible with her sexually. My friend thought this was a really strange comment in the context of their conversation and asked her to clarify. She tried to imply what she meant, but after he still wasn't getting it, she asked him if he didn't know I was big. He has never seen my dick, so he had no idea what she meant. She then proceeds to explain to him that right around the time we first started dating, my girlfriend sent photos of me to all of her friends because of my size, complaining how uncomfortable she was during sex and in some positions. I had no idea she shared those pictures. I assumed she kept those photos to herself the same way I did the photos she sent me. If I knew she would share them, I would never have sent them to her. I asked my girlfriend for an explanation, and she didn't deny it or apologize. She only said that she was surprised by my size and felt like sharing her problems with her friends. The latter part of this makes sense, but I don't see how she needed to send a picture to ask for advice. She doesn't think she did anything wrong. If anything, in her view, she's done me a favor because her friends were impressed. I demanded an apology from her, and she laughed it off and told me I was acting crazy and being kind of an a-hole for making such a big deal out of a past event which happened years ago and no one cares about anymore. When she didn't apologize, I told her that I was not going to help her with any more wedding planning until she did. That really ticked her off, and she told me I was being stupid and acting like a baby. We're in a stalemate right now. She won't apologize, and I have been ignoring the wedding planning. Most of our mutual friends have sided with her and tell me to let it go and stop being an a-hole. My sister was also one of those people. Am I really the a-hole for protesting the wedding planning until she apologizes? I don't think you're an a-hole in this situation. How would she feel if you're like, you know what, I was having problems with your body image, so I sent your nudes to all my friends, but don't worry about it, they were really impressed by your nudes. How would she feel knowing that she gets the side eye from all my mates, knowing that they'd seen her naked? It wouldn't make her feel good, wouldn't make me feel good in the same situation if she did that to me. I can definitely side with OP on this one. I don't understand why she won't apologize. Is she in denial? Does she not want to understand what she's done? Again, it's that point of leading by your intentions, not realizing that your actions don't show those intentions. I feel like this is a genuine case for couples counseling, whatever marriage counseling, because they're not even at that stage yet. They genuinely need to do it. She needs to sit down and apologize, and they need to just cover every base. That's pretty much one of the only things I would do in this situation, because he's tried to be open and communicate with her, and she refuses to. So I say the problem lies with her now. OP, not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. What if the genders were reversed? There would be a goddamn mob of angry women demanding that the guy apologize. You're letting her off pretty light for what she did. OP says, I don't want to break up with her over this. I want her to acknowledge that what she did was wrong and apologize. If she can do that, I still think we can be very happy together. She doesn't think it's wrong, then tells you something important about her. Putting your foot down over wedding planning details is immature and not facing the actual issues, but you are not the a-hole. You are, however, quite the humble bragger. Yeah. At this point, if she apologizes, it's likely going to be to keep the peace and get her way, not because she feels bad. OP, do you even want an apology from her if she's already made it clear she does not respect you? Me thinks the fiancé was humble bragging to her friends as well when she sent the pic, and that's why she doesn't see anything wrong with what she did, but doesn't want to admit to the humble bragging. Just speculating. I'm not sure I agree with that. Sex is really painful for me, and if the guy I'm with is at all above average, it would be fudging awful. Not everyone wants to brag about big dicks. If she said it was painful, there's no reason to completely ignore that. And OP, if she refuses to apologize? If she doesn't apologize, I don't see how I can go through with the wedding. There might be a scenario where we stay together and work on our relationship if she's willing to put in the work. But I can't see myself marrying her if she really thinks what she did was fine. Dude, she's currently refusing to apologize. I hope this is because she realized what a massive frick-up she made and is just embarrassed and projecting. I hope that she does apologize. If that's not the case, I hope you don't wait too long. I'm not sure what my timeline would be for an apology, but as long as she is willing to go to therapy if she doesn't apologize, then I would still continue the relationship. If she won't do either, then I would ask to take a break for a few weeks or a month. If she feels the same way after the break is over, then we probably should go separate ways. Would you believe her apology was sincere at this point? The fact she doesn't think this is a big deal breaker, when in some states it's literally a crime, should be very concerning to you. You need to postpone the wedding at least. And OP replies, I think I could tell if it was sincere. What she says in the apology matters too. If it's a, I'm sorry you got your feelings hurt type of apology, then no. If it's a, I'm sorry for what I did and I realize why I was wrong apology, then yes. I don't know if she would apologize or what kind she would give, but I'm willing to give her a chance. If nothing else, at least if things don't work out, I don't have to wonder if I ended our relationship too soon and without trying to work through this. You'd have to be crazy not to leave someone who cares so little about you or your feelings, dude. You're crazy. It's not that easy to just end a multi-year relationship. I know there is a sunk cost fallacy, but I think it would be crazy to not at least see if we can work past it. If we can't, then we can't. I understand that it's hard, but she's shown a blatant disregard for your feelings and blatant disrespect towards you as a person. What she did was absolutely horrible and a huge violation of trust and consent, and to make matters worse, she doesn't even care. She has absolutely no remorse for violating your trust and consent. She sounds like a terrible person. What you choose to do is absolutely up to you. There's no doubt about that. I just feel really bad for you, honestly. Not only do you have to deal with her, but a crapload of people are victim blaming you. Hopefully she changes for the better, truly and honestly, not just to get her way. Good luck with the therapy and with her in general. Also, don't send her any more nudes. She's lost that privilege. And OP says, I guess my perspective is, at this point, we're not getting married. There's no timetable for it, so there is time to see if this can be resolved. If not, I have wasted a few more weeks or months after wasting years. You know, I think that's fair. I think that's a realistic way to go about it. I do wish OP all the best. I think that's the most we can get out of this thread. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Posted by user ThrowRA titled, Am I the a-hole for threatening to call off our wedding because my fiancé is refusing to shave his beard for it? So, I've been with my fiancé for over 3 years. We've been engaged for one of those years, and our wedding is set for September 6th. My fiancé has been growing a beard ever since like March or so. Same. I haven't thought anything of it since I've seen him with a beard plenty of times before. I'd say since I've known him, it's been about 50-50 between him clean-shaven and him having a beard. I jokingly brought up his beard and our wedding the other day. I said, "You ready to have a clean face for our wedding?" He looked at me and was silent for a few seconds, and he finally said, I was going to leave my beard for the wedding. I gave him a pretty gross look and said, Ew, no you're not. That's not acceptable. I will not have that. He got mad that I was telling him what to do, and said that I can't tell him what to do with his grooming preferences. I said that I have the right to, since it's my wedding and I'm marrying him. We kept going back and forth about it until I said that I would cancel our wedding if he doesn't shave. He didn't budge. He ended up getting really mad by that comment and left shortly after. I don't blame him. He's barely texted me since that happened. I've told my friends and family about the situation, and part of them agree with me, while some said that I had no right to tell him to do that, and that I was being a jerk for doing so. Just to clarify, I don't hate this beard. It's fine. I think at times that it can be attractive. I just don't really like the idea of him not being clean-shaven on our wedding day. I feel as though the pictures will not be as classy and nice. So Reddit, am I the a-hole in this situation? If he hasn't touched the beards, it probably looks something like mine in my introduction of these videos, and it's glorious in my opinion. I say let a man get married with a big bushy fluffy beard. I love it, he should love it too. Don't know why OP doesn't love it. You said you're getting married to him on your wedding day. It's also his day. What if he wants you to have a beard, OP? Checkmate. Yeah, that's what I thought. Anyway, I think she's the a-hole in this situation for trying to force something because she doesn't like it, and OP obviously wants to keep it. Communication has been going on, and she's still hounding him about it. She didn't have a problem with it before, because it was a 50-50 between clean-shaven and beard. Why is there such a problem now? That's my stance on it. OP is the a-hole. You guys may have different opinions. You're the a-hole. As a woman, you should understand the concepts, my body, my choice. The fact you're denying him the right to choose what he wants is messed up. It would be the same as him telling you what to do with your hair. If you are that petty, just let the poor man go so he can find someone else. And by the way, the wedding is about both bride and groom. I hate women like you who think the wedding is only about them. Sorry to break it to you, but it's not. But what about the pictures? You're the a-hole, OP. A wedding and marriage is more than pictures. That's what got me the most. She doesn't even think he looks bad with the beard. She's just worried about the pictures. If you're willing to call off a wedding over the pictures, then you're not ready to get married. It also comes across as sheer stubbornness. I don't mind the beard, but why won't he do what I command? I'm cancelling the wedding because it's meant to only be about me. Don't these people love their partners or respect their wishes? I honestly don't get all of these bridezillas. Life is more than a wedding, a relationship is more than a wedding. Also, it's not only her wedding, it's also her partner's wedding. OP really needs to respect his wishes. I honestly feel like most bridezillas don't know how relationships work, and I really wonder why they're getting married in the first place if they can't compromise or respect their partner's wishes. Yeah, they probably get married for the wedding because that's all important in life, right? Sarcasm. You're the a-hole. If that's enough to call it off, he shouldn't be marrying you anyway. Hard, you're the a-hole. Wedding culture is so toxic these days. It's not just your wedding, it's his too. Imagine if he asked you to lose 20 pounds or dye your hair before the big day. You wouldn't have it. It would be reasonable to say, honey, would you mind trimming the beard and making sure it's neat for the wedding? Instead, you decided to be a brat, and I'm not surprised your fiancé walked out. It's really not cool to give ultimatums about your relationship over petty stuff. It would make anybody feel undervalued and unloved. You need to apologize to him, chill about your wedding, and consider whether you want a perfect party or a marriage. Posted by user ThrowSoy, titled, Am I the a-hole for returning my daughter's birthday present to the store? My husband, 28, and I, 43, had a small birthday celebration for my daughter, 15, in our backyard. She was able to eat and hang out with her two best friends. Everything goes fine until her stepdad walks out with a buddy of his to grab some chips and drink a bottle of beer. We have a very large deck, and they were sitting in lawn chairs on the other side of it, yet my daughter kicks up a fuss and asks why they were there. She asks her stepfather to leave, and he says that this happens to be his deck, not hers. I tell her that's no way to treat her stepfather. In response, she says that she's going over to her friend's house to finish the rest of her birthday cake. I was furious that she left, despite my protests that she apologized to her stepdad first. For her birthday, I had agreed to buy her a laptop because she had previously complained about having to share the large home computer with her stepfather, who likes it for his graphic design work and asks her not to keep clearing the history on it. But I only agreed to buy her this on the condition that she keeps the peace around the house, and the blow-up at the birthday party was the opposite of that. My husband was humiliated, and sometimes he sighs and says that he doesn't know if this will work out. I love him unconditionally. In addition, he was also being generous in allocating the deck where he could have said no. I ended up returning the laptop back to where I bought it, and when my daughter got home, she called me a sellout and refuses to eat dinner with either me or her stepfather. Am I the a-hole? I love him unconditionally. What the hell? You're the a-hole. Apparently your love of your daughter is conditional, and she has almost no rights in the house. Also, why the hell couldn't you make her a second account so her browsing history wouldn't clash with his? If your kid is so against their step-parent that they don't even want them at a birthday party, then you screwed up big time by marrying that person. Did you see that age gap? The husband is young enough to be the kid's older brother, as if it could be any worse, right? I just want to know why it's a teenage girl's job to keep the peace around the house. The house should be peaceful already. What's going on there that a teenager needs to be an arbitrator of disputes and/or walk on eggshells? OP makes a point of writing that she loves her husband unconditionally. Even when you try to read between the lines, there's nothing even close to that sort of sentiment for her daughter. It's obvious where her loyalties lie. This freaked me out too, especially as her literal fudging birthday present is dependent on her ability to push those feelings down deep. Now darling, don't forget, Mummy will only love you if you make sure creepy husband is always happy. Okay? If anybody's creepy, it's the mum because of the age difference. I think they're suggesting that stepdad and his friend were creeping on daughter and friends. Of fudging course there were. There is more to this story if it's true. You're the a-hole, and let's review the red flags and a-holery together. My husband was humiliated, and sometimes he sighs and says that he doesn't know if this will work out. Your husband tells you that he doesn't know if this is going to work out. This being your marriage. He literally questions your relationship, but here you are, putting him over your daughter. Guess who will always be your family? Her. The I love him unconditionally part. You love him so much that you put him over your daughter and ignore all the red flags. And him being generous by letting her use part of the deck on her own birthday? What the hell is this? Is it not your house too? Your daughter wants to hang with friends, and he intruded with his friends on her birthday. She then left to be with her friends, and your response is to get angry at her and return a gift. A gift she honestly needs for school, not just for fun. Congrats on alienating your daughter. Keep it up, and when your husband finally leaves you since he's not sure if this will work out, you will be completely alone, since she won't want anything to do with you either. Look, a kind and generous stepfather would have decorated the deck for her birthday. And let's face it, he knew he would be disturbing her birthday if he went out there. That's why he did it. I think stepfather is a control freak who likes to make mum choose between him and his daughter. Every time mum chooses him, he feels more powerful because he wins. OP, sorry to say that you're the a-hole, and this will get progressively worse on both sides. You have a duty to your daughter to protect her, and it seems your husband's duty is to antagonize her and you both. And he's good at his job. I'm sorry for both you and your daughter. Posted by user 55co, titled, Am I the a-hole for yelling at a wildlife sanctuary owner/fox owner for making the fox adoption process so difficult on me? Ah yes, because foxes are just the easiest things to adopt, I imagine. Since I was 16, I've known I've wanted a pet fox. I've read up on them, know they're a lot of work, and that many owners are responsible, and that they can be destructive. But I've known I want one anyways. Now I've graduated with my degree, paid off all my debts, live alone in a house, and I finally started looking into getting a pet fox. I contacted a large wildlife sanctuary here, one of the only licensed sellers of pet foxes in my state, who have taken in many pet foxes that previous owners surrendered to them, and began the adoption process. That was more than 4 months ago, and the woman who runs it constantly made things difficult for me. In every phone call, she seemed skeptical of my intentions. First, I had to pay a large cash deposit to even begin the adoption process. Then I had to agree to have a background check and submit proof of income. Then I had to give a virtual home tour by some outsourced service to make sure the environment was suitable for a fox, whatever that means, and pay for the cost of the service. Terrible. I've had at least 3 separate phone interviews now, where I had to answer a bunch of questions about responsible ownership and get quizzed on how to care for a fox. I thought I was finally nearing the end of the process, when I then get told the next step is purchasing 2 bottles of fox urine. Apparently you can buy it online. I looked it up. Place them inside my house, open the lids on the bottles, and leave them to sit open for a week. Since apparently 63% of new red fox owners surrender the fox within 1 year, and the primary reason is a lack of willingness or ability to deal with fox odor. At this point, I went off on her and yelled that I've been going through this stupid process for months. She has a fox, I have the money. Why the hell can't I give you the money for the fox and call it a day, instead of playing all these stupid games? She just gruffly told me that she had every right to keep my deposit and withhold the fox if I chose to behave this way, until or unless I apologized and agreed to her process. Am I the a-hole? I feel like I've reasonably demonstrated that I'm willing and able to care for a fox without filling my home with fox pee. Yes, but OP, you do realize your home's gonna be filled with fox pee when you get a fox. And pee smell doesn't come out easily. I own 2 chihuahuas, I know what it's like. People don't appreciate the smell of pee, you won't appreciate the smell of pee. She's given you more than enough warning. She's given you the statistic of 63% surrender it within 1 year. You are talking like a teenager that is invincible to the world. That can't hurt me. I'm bulletproof. This won't stop me. Yeah, but I'm gonna be different. OP, I think you just need to be slapped by reality for a bit. Buy the bottles of piss. That's the price you pay for getting a pissy fox. Sorry about it, that's just reality. You're the a-hole. Honestly, what she did is reasonable, and if you aren't willing to be patient with her, you're probably not going to be patient with the fox. You know she's the only licensed seller, yet you still yelled at her? A fox is not an item, it's a living being. My thoughts exactly. You're the a-hole, they go through these processes for a reason, and OP is a prime example of why. There's also the fact that the foxes the seller has are all ones that had to be returned by their owners. It's no wonder she'd want to be as careful as possible and make sure all the foxes go to people who know what they're doing. Right? Like, how many of those previous owners are like OP, who just knew they wanted a fox and read about it online a little, then got one? Especially since the sanctuary owner even said being unable to adjust to the smell is a big reason they get returned. Foxes are adorable, but their pee reeks, and even once they're litter trained, A, the smell is still everywhere, and B, they mostly get it in the box at best. If OP gets frustrated this easily, there is no way they'll cope with the challenges of a rescue fox. You're the a-hole. See, OP doesn't want a fox. They haven't wanted a fox since they were 16, in a sense that was any more realistic than an 8-year-old girl who wants a unicorn. OP doesn't want the fox. They want their idea of what a fox is, and their idea of how it will be to have a fox. This smacks of furry vibe, in the sense that the person claims to be so into whatever animal, and actually has little to no idea what the reality of that animal is. You are in fact the a-hole. Have you ever actually smelled a fox? If not, she's doing you a favor. I had to step inside a small, unventilated room at a rehab facility once where they were temporarily keeping 3 foxes, and I found it hard to breathe at all without feeling sick. When you breathe through your mouth, the air tastes like fox musk. Ugh. Fox urine is so rancid that it's used on my college campus to deter tree theft around Christmas time. It's apparently sprayed on the branches of trees that the campus think are at risk of being illegally cut down for Christmas trees. It freezes on them and is undetectable outdoors, but if you cut one down and bring it indoors so it thaws, we're warned it's a living hell. I was told as a freshman that some frat boys tried their luck a couple years prior, thinking we're likely to pick an unsprayed tree, and worst case, how bad could it be? The next day, people were gagging on the sidewalk outside their frat house. The smell was so heinous. Jesus, it wafted onto the sidewalk outside of it? Ew, how bad is that? Posted by user Delancey and Essex. Titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my girlfriend don't come to the restaurant if you only plan on eating a salad? Because you don't make friends with salad? Look, I get it. Salad is an easy go-to healthy meal that we use. But I think it's a cheap and scared to try new things move at a restaurant. The restaurant we're going to is American, so you know what kind of food there is. I'm trying to go to the restaurant with some people on Thursday. I tell her yesterday night. I give her time to look over the menu, prices, whatever. Then I ask if anything caught her mind. She says the ricotta dumplings caught her eye and sounded good, but she'll just go with the salad. When she said that, I made a psh noise, followed by a shaking my head and saying, ridiculous. Psh, ridiculous. When I asked if she was serious and she told me yeah, that's when I said to not even come to the restaurant and just stay home. She says, I'm trying to be healthy about what I eat. But I work out and try to eat healthy, but I'm able to eat good throughout the week, so I'm able to have a meal at a restaurant. I told her to do the same. By the way, you can buy a salad at the grocery store for $5 instead of spending $16 on one. Waste of money. I would leave it up to her to buy her own meal. Alright, Graham Stephan, geez, this isn't Trader Joe's, buddy. What have we learned about my body, my choice in this episode? Oh my god. He doesn't get to dictate what she eats. He can make suggestions, sure. That's normal in a relationship, but completely saying, no, you can't make friends with this salad, it's too expensive. No, you can't come to the restaurant to make friends with this salad. I forbid you. Very controlling and manipulative, OP. I don't get why there's a shtick so far up your ass, buddy. You're the a-hole, calm down. You're the a-hole. Why do you care what she eats? Generally speaking, if you offer to buy dinner, you don't police what other people order. If you aren't buying, you still don't police what the other people order. This nice guy gatekeeping food. What a catch. You're the a-hole, OP. YTA. Okay, I wouldn't go to a restaurant just for a salad, but that's me. You shouldn't be shaming her for trying to be healthy, as she's just trying to keep her diet and still go to the dinner with your friends. I know salads aren't difficult to make, and a lot of restaurant salads can probably be made fairly easily at home. But there are still plenty of reasons to want to try a salad at a restaurant in addition to the social aspect. They could have ingredients that are hard to find or otherwise inconvenient to use at home, like if it contains an ingredient that spoils quickly, or maybe you want to try something new without having to buy everything yourself. And sometimes people want to be able to just eat something without having to do any planning or preparation. You're the a-hole. Some people prefer salads, and restaurant salads are often way better than a grocery store bag. Also, restaurant salads aren't the healthy option. They're often not very healthy at all if you don't modify it to remove a bunch of dressings and toppings. Let the woman enjoy eating what she wants to eat. She doesn't have to eat what you want her to. That's childish and ridiculous. Posted by user Throw number 45, titled, Am I the a-hole for telling a mutual female friend that she's too dark for me anyways, after she said she wouldn't date me because of my height? Oh, nice guy tips his fedora. I'm 5'9" and the girl in question is 5'4". Let's call her Lydia. We were hanging out having Korean barbecue. It was me, my friend, his girlfriend, and the Lydia, who my friend's girlfriend brought along. Also, since people will ask, yes, we are all black. Lydia talks about a Tinder date she went on recently, and how the guy spent his time on the phone, but she was willing to give it a second shot because their texting was amazing, and that he was like 6'4". My friend's girlfriend is like, don't complain about guys that ignore you when you go for him. You should go for a guy like OP. Lydia then looks at me and is like, you're super sweet, but you're just too short for me, and says some other stuff, but really talks down to me. And I just respond, oh, I wasn't interested in you. You're just a bit too dark-skinned for me, at least for a long-term relationship. And I threw that last part in just to be petty. I know it was mean, but just say, hey, I don't see a connection with you. You don't gotta bring me down. My friend found it hilarious. His girlfriend and Lydia are super angry and use me as an example on why black men are trash. But I think it's fair game. If you're gonna judge me for what I can't control, don't be surprised if I judge you for things you can't control. I genuinely think, all's fair. Everyone's throwing crap around here. She said some crappy things, you said some crappy things. I think it equalized itself out. It's not right to say that to people, but it gets said regardless. So everyone sucks here in this situation. I don't get how nobody is saying everyone sucks here. She was crappy to you, you were crappy in response. You both could stand to grow up. Agreed. I cringed. Colorism isn't a reasonable response to anything. Obviously the girl shouldn't have made a heightist mark either. Everyone sucks here. She's shallow and needs to learn to look past height, and you need to learn that just because someone else is being immature and petty, it doesn't make what you said any less immature and petty. Also, saying she's too dark for you isn't just insulting her, it's straight up colorist and insulting to all dark-skinned people. Not cool, and an overreaction, racism and colorism are way worse than heightism or whatever. At 5'9", you're not short, and even if you were, you shouldn't be hitting out at other people's insecurities in an attempt to get even, especially when it's to do with something like color. There is a massive issue with men and women using skin lightening creams due to people believing that lighter skin is better. I'm not saying she wasn't an a-hole, but you are the a-hole, especially for the long-term relationship thing. Just like men are rejected for height, women are rejected based on skin color and weight. Don't do that. Be better. And you should not be using colorism as a way to retaliate. You escalated it by taking it there. Colorism and height are not on the same level. Wouldn't that fall under everyone sucks here if they both used hurtful stereotypes? Nah, colorism is at a whole different level than height. He dug deep for that insult. Ever heard of the paper bag test? Or, you're pretty for a black girl. Just Google the paper bag test real quick. Anything darker than that is undesirable and a whole bunch of other BS. He went nuclear for no reason. Wow, yeah, I actually didn't know the history behind colorism. Kinda brutal when put in context, to be honest. When considering even a cursory history, I would definitely agree with the "you're the a-hole" calls. OP could have said she had bad breath or something, but what he said kinda looks like a bridge too far. Whoa, what the? From 1900 until about 1950, paper bag parties are said to have taken place in neighborhoods of major American cities with a high concentration of African Americans. Many churches, fraternities, and nightclubs use the brown paper bag principle as a test for entrance. People at these organizations would take a brown paper bag and hold it against a person's skin. If a person was lighter than the bag, they were admitted. People whose skin was not lighter than a brown paper bag were denied entry. I'm feeling like it's shifting to "you're the a-hole" now. That's much worse than height, given the history of that. Jesus. Didn't put it in that perspective before. I was just thinking of it as an insult level. But yeah, the racism, colorism aspect of it is much worse than making fun of him for his height. Posted by user Can't Think of a Name 54835, titled, "Am I the a-hole for taking in my niece when my brother didn't want to?" Backstory. My brother, stupidly, got a girl pregnant when he was 17 and just abandoned the chance at parenthood. He tried to go through college but couldn't. If he finished, my parents would only help him get a place to stay and help for a month until he got a job. I think this is enough backstory, hopefully. The real story is the girl he got pregnant from high school lost custody of my niece, as she was an alcoholic and her parents couldn't afford to take care of her. So since my brother's name was on the birth certificate, they found him and he didn't want to take her in, my parents couldn't afford to take care of her, besides to use their retirement money, so I offered to take her in. I have a decent job, a fully paid off car, and a bit of property. I'm 34. My brother blew up at me at the second I said I'm willing to take her in, and I have absolutely no idea why he got so mad at the moment, but after he calmed down, I asked why he was so mad. He said that I was trying to steal his child from him and have her call me Dad. I wasn't. She's 9 years old and whoever she calls Dad is her choice, but I'll let her know that my brother is her biological father. My brother agreed, but my parents just blew up saying I had no right to do that to my brother. I now have full custody of my niece, and she knows that I'm her uncle and calls me by my real name. My parents are still mad at me and have turned everyone but my brother against me. So, am I the a-hole for doing this? Edit. Someone brought up I should add more details. Okay. 1. My niece's mum was a good parent, just depressed and turned to alcohol. 2. My brother is a better person near her. He is playful, happy, and loving. And 3. This all started about a month ago. Edit 2. My best guess on why my parents are mad is because she hurts their ego as good parents, because my brother was 17 when he impregnated her mum. The literacy in this post really broke my brain. I tried my best to make it legible for you guys and easy to follow, but Jesus. OP comes across as a saint, and I do understand that there's so much of a culture of people trying to save face. And it really sucks when you come across parents that try to cover up, people that get impregnated at 17, we're good people, our kids can do no wrong, just sweep all that bad history under the floor, that doesn't exist, we have a good image, right? OP, you did a good thing by taking in your niece and raising her. I don't understand why the father is still in her life and not paying child support to you or providing any monetary support to the niece, but hey, not my situation, not my prerogative, I guess. I don't understand it. Opie, you keep doing what you're doing good, not the a-hole. But I'm very seriously questioning your family. I don't understand what's going on there. Absolutely not the a-hole. Why the hell is your brother mad at you for trying to take care of the girl? From what I found out, he thought I was going to have her call me dad, but she already knows that I'm not her dad. So what if you were? He isn't being her dad. Yeah, I realize that, but I wouldn't be that rude to him, and it makes me sad that he thought I would. Who cares? How rude is abandoning your child? I personally know someone who manned up and dealt with the struggle and strife. And OP says, good on them. And you're a good person. Don't let all this BS blind you from that fact. Thank you, and I won't, says OP. Not the a-hole. Child abandoners don't get to be angry with people who are willing to step up to the plate and care for the child they won't. Thanks, and I 100% agree. You're a good guy, my dude. You didn't have to take her in, but you did. Good on you. And tell your brother to kick rocks if he's not willing to step up. He didn't get to tell you crap. Thanks, and I will if he decides to not continue to get better. Yes, you're the only good person in this scenario, and your niece is totally innocent, of course. And I hope you and your niece have happy lives together and beyond. I like that your parents would rather prove themselves to be horrible grandparents than to project the image that they might have made some mistakes as parents. Really makes you think, doesn't it? Posted by user Throwaway for Am I the A-hole 10, titled, Am I the A-hole for chopping too much of my daughter's hair off? My daughter, 15, had really long hair that went past her waist. The ends of her hair were really unhealthy and needed to be cut off. She agreed to have about 6 inches cut off. When it came to cutting her hair, I realized she needed a lot more cut off, because even though the hair wasn't unhealthy apart from the lower 2/3 inches, it was just time for fresh hair. As I started to cut her hair, I cut it up to her shoulder blades, way shorter than she wanted it. As she realized what I was doing, she blew up in a fit of rage, shouting at me, saying, "What the hell am I doing?" that we agreed on a certain length. She then started crying and refused to let me continue to cut. Her hair was all jagged and incomplete. One side was longer than the other. I told her, "How dare you shout at me like that?" And my other children agreed with me that I didn't deserve to be shouted at like that. She continued hysterically crying and wouldn't stop all night. She's never had hair that short, so it's a big change for her, but she'll get used to it. She needed the cut desperately. She said that she didn't need it short, and it would have been fine having just 6 inches taken off. She was crying about how her hair was the only thing that gave her self-esteem, and now it's all been taken away. My daughter also struggles with mental illness, so she can be very unstable. She has mid-functioning autism and severe anxiety. This was back in March at the beginning of lockdown, so we couldn't go to the hairdressers. I hope I've made myself clear, and I will answer any questions. I want you to all know that I love all my children very much and would never intentionally be an a-hole to them. So if I am deemed one, I will learn from this. As of now, I think it was the correct decision as her hair really needed it. It was impossible to control. But now she won't trust me for anything I do or say. Am I the a-hole? Well, OP, I think you made yourself very clear that you pushed the line with your daughter who has mid-functioning autism and severe anxiety. You know what she's like. You raised her, and yet you still pushed these boundaries. How do you not look back and be disgusted in yourself, knowing this is going to trigger her? You know what she's like, and yet you still did it. How can you not think you're an a-hole in this situation? Would you like it if someone just cut your hair? You probably don't have these 2 things that she does, so you can probably handle it better than she can. Can you not empathize with your own daughter that will blow up over this, and you can see why she doesn't trust you anymore? Don't see how you can empathize with yourself that you're not. You definitely suck. You're the a-hole. You made an agreement with your daughter, and then violated it without warning or good reason. It was just time for fresh hair. Even only hearing your side of this story is clearly a flimsy excuse. You pushed your preference on her, you've had minutes or even hours to come up with an excuse for strangers on the internet, and you couldn't generate one. You have damaged your daughter's trust in you for no reason. You're the a-hole. OP says, all of these responses have given me a massive reality check. I needed to read all of these, and I'm glad I did. I'm shocked with myself. I don't know how to make up for it, but I will try my best. Thank you. I'm glad you've seen your wrongdoings. I know that many people really care about their hair, and your daughter was upset that you violated her trust. Have you apologized? Yes, I have apologized and said that I was completely wrong. I also explained how wrong it was for me to violate her trust in me. I'm disgusted with myself, and it breaks my heart to see what I've done to her. I hope you understand that you don't just need to apologize for cutting her hair and violating her trust. You also need to apologize for this part here. I told her, how dare you shout at me like that, and my other children agreed with me that I didn't deserve to be shouted at like that. You absolutely deserve to be shouted at, and it's not okay that you immediately tried to shame and silence her when she reacted to what you did. Also, enlisting her siblings against her was seriously messed up. You didn't just violate her trust, you physically assaulted her. Do you understand that? There have literally been court cases in the US where the person who cuts hair against the other's will was found guilty of assault. You're the a-hole. It was just time for fresh hair? What does that even mean? Hair doesn't get old or moldy. It's hair. Chopping off split ends is one thing, 6 inches is way more than enough to cover that. You know that your daughter deals with autism and anxiety, and you chose to disregard her known wishes and physically removed her hair without her express permission. If a stranger had done it on the street, that would be assault. And you did this all for what? For your personal aesthetic preferences? You're the a-hole 3 times over. I'm still so confused. What is fresh hair? Cutting off more from the bottom doesn't grow more out of the top. What the hell? OP says, I'm disgusted with myself after reading all these comments. Thank you for telling me all this. I have a lot to learn and a lot to do to regain my daughter's trust. When I said fresh hair, I meant hair that isn't brittle. Perhaps I used the wrong words. So OP replies here as well, this is definitely not fake. This happened in late March at the beginning of lockdown in the UK. My daughter is 15. I have learned a lot from these replies and am disgusted at myself. And I have a lot to learn. In no way is this fake or made up. Unfortunately, it seems many other parents have also made the same mistake I have, which destroys their child's trust. I learned this too late. So, you left it almost 5 months? Presumably you've spent the last 5 months assuming you were right. I wonder how your daughter is doing with getting an apology that late. Probably doesn't mean much now. Posted by user Discorporating, titled, Am I the a-hole for sending a girl a video with all her flaws after she posted a public video making fun of strangers? Context, this girl isn't a friend of mine, more like an acquaintance. I have her number though. Anyways, she posted a video to her public Instagram publicly shaming people. In the background was the song, Never Gonna Get It, Never Gonna Get It. So basically, she would zoom in on an overweight person in the street, then say, never gonna get it, skinny. She would show someone with acne, never gonna get it, a boyfriend. She zoomed in on the garbage man, never gonna get it, a real job. You get the idea. I found this entire thing wrong to do and texted her asking her to remove it. She said it was just a joke and that I shouldn't take it too seriously. I said she should, at the very least, make it private so she isn't showing strangers' faces on the internet. But she declined, saying that people were finally viewing her stuff and she could get insta-famous. It didn't get that many likes, only around 100, but that's more than she's ever gotten before. I felt there was no reasoning with her, so I put together a 10-second video to the same tune, except with her face instead. Never gonna get it, an education since she's so busy on Instagram. Or, never gonna get it, friends since she's so judgy. I didn't post it online, just sent it to her, asking, "How would you like it if you saw this online?" She flipped out and called me a hypocrite and huge a-hole. I guess she's right that I'm a hypocrite, but I'm not going to post it online, and I just did it to show her how hurtful she is. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You didn't post it online or to get famous. That would make you suck too. You did it to pull up a mirror to the crap bullying that she is doing. Yep, OP picked up a mirror instead of a megaphone. Still kinda dickish the way she said things, but if this person's not finding it funny when it's them, then they wouldn't really make it as someone popular online either. Not the a-hole. You gave her a taste of her own medicine, and unlike her, you didn't shame her publicly. Not the a-hole, and surprised others think you're even a teeny bit a-hole-ish. None of those things you wrote about her were even demeaning or superficial. What you said in your clip was true, as evidenced by her video. She took people's photos, which she probably did so without permission, belittled them for their appearance and employment, and used no factual information to do this all. You, from the few you've mentioned, posted sound assumptions that she's concerned about getting likes versus being a decent human being with good morals, and her snap judgment probably hinders her ability to make and retain solid friendships. Keep calling people out for their poor behavior. You didn't post it online or share it with anyone. You sent it to her, as she couldn't see the impact of what she'd done until you showed her how moronic it was. And she probably still didn't take it down because what bad things she's done doesn't compare to the same things done to her. Privilege really is a disease. Not the a-hole. Garbage men make fudging bank. And they work hard. I would like them to go on strike just at her house for a few weeks. See then if it's a real job. Happened in my mum's city. Not only garbage men, but other public workers too. People got fed up very fast with overfilled bins, etc. Posted by user Yogurt Closet Crazy 699. Titled, "Am I the a-hole for telling my sister I don't pity her after she lost 2 of her toe fingers?" My sister was in a mild car accident and 2 of her toe fingers were pretty damaged. Long story short, she had to have it removed. In the meantime, our mother is being evicted from her home, and I've been raising my 7-year-old nephew after our sister died of a drug overdose 2 years ago. I've been helping our mother out financially by supplementing her with $400 to $500 a month as she is on a fixed income. It's been a real struggle. After my sister had her surgery, she asked my mum to stay with her at her house to help her with her kids while her husband worked. My sister and I are estranged, but apparently she wanted to reconnect. I was open to it. I told her she could call me whenever. I was going to ask how she was doing and recovering. Then my mum dropped a bombshell. My sister and her husband sold their business to a well-known company for $18 million a couple of years ago, right around the time when I took in my nephew, and I've been the one giving my mother $500 a month out of my $4,000 monthly paycheck. I was ticked. And yes, my sister knew. She eventually called me and wailing and crying over it and complaining how it will affect her at the gym. I told her I couldn't care less about her toes and she could go to hell. She asked me what I was talking about. I said I was in a bad situation a couple of years ago and have been adjusting financially to help out our nephew and mother. She had the means to help and she didn't. I said I knew about her $18 million. She had no obligation, and honestly I wouldn't have expected her to. That is her money, but I don't want to hear about her $18 million rich person problems. She didn't want to talk about it. I told her that I wished her nothing but the best, but she's a tramp and an a-hole, and I don't want anything to do with her. Edit, toe fingers are your toes, quote unquote. Not the a-hole, but question a mild car accident considering loss of toes. Not familiar with that terminology. Towards that, the sale of the business and final payout could have taken a good while. Consider how her life changed, your estrangement, and what seems like obvious resentment on your behalf. Medical bills and rehabilitation can go on for years too. I totally hear your struggle, but you are not a victim, as your family has leaned on you. Pity is one thing, compassion is another. Not loss of toes, loss of toe fingers. What are toe fingers? The fingers of your toes, the phalanges, 3 per finger and toe. Not included a thumb and big toe, so just makes sense. That's the $18 million question. What are toe fingers? See, I think this puts it into you're the a-hole territory. OP says further down in the comments that their mother's struggles are all self-inflicted and that she's always been a giant narcissist. It sounds like OP has been enabling mum's bad behavior and is just mad that the sister made the smart decision to cut them off and better herself instead of letting her mum's poor decisions keep her down. Although, in the post, it doesn't clarify if the sister was estranged from the whole family or just from OP. Have you watched crash test videos? They are fairly interesting. One that I would consider mild is the half barrier tests. Basically, at like 30 miles per hour, you run into a barrier 2 to 3 feet high spanning half the width of the car. Even at city speeds, some of the damage is crazy. One factor they rate on is leg damage. I had a car that could probably drive away from anything, and did even after being totaled, but got a C rating for crash test safety because it would cause severe damage to the left leg of the passenger in the test I mentioned. I'm gonna go with everyone sucks here. I think she should have helped out and contributed if she had the means, but she's allowed to be upset about losing 2 toes. I fully agree with this, but also for some reason it made me laugh. I think it was having to explain to OP that her sister may in fact be upset about losing 2 toe fingers. Anyhow, yeah, everyone sucks here. This is odd. I feel like this scenario may be a good example of why they're estranged. Neither is necessarily without blame for some aspect of this story. I put no a-holes here because they were estranged and not talking, so what the sister chose to do before that isn't OP's right to be upset over. The sister is certainly allowed to be upset about her toes, but that doesn't mean that OP is the appropriate person for her to vent to, so I'm going with not the a-hole. Posted by user AdvancedPrune7754, titled, Am I the a-hole for not telling my dad that my mum passed away? My, 26 female, parents got divorced after 22 years of marriage, high school love, and looking back at their relationship, I was surprised they lasted 22 years. I'm pretty sure my dad was never faithful, and ultimately had his exit affair when I was in my second year of college. My mum had hoped he would come back, but he didn't. Got married a year later to a woman we all knew. Their divorce was messy. For the last 3 years, they didn't have any kind of contact or communication. Earlier this year, my mum was diagnosed with an aggressive ailment, which took her life last month. I loved her a lot, and her being gone was a huge blow to me and my brother. Now, my brother cut all contact with our father after the divorce. I still maintained contact, wishing him well on birthdays and things like that. I stopped discussing sensitive topics with him, as I knew he would talk to his wife about them, and I didn't want that. I don't particularly know that woman, and I don't want her knowing my business. So, when my mum passed away last month, for a month I took a break from all social media. I didn't have contact with anyone. People close to me knew what happened, but I didn't publicly mourn my mum. Finally, after 1 month, I felt emotionally ready to make a public post about her death. So here my dad immediately calls me up, demanding to know why I didn't tell him that mum was sick or that she died. He told me that he could have helped us connect with better doctors, etc., etc. He's a doctor. He sounded angry and told me that he had the right to know. Am I the a-hole? I'm sorry, I don't think he had the right to know. I'm sure there are some situations where people break up, people lose contact, things end amicably and on good terms. I don't think we can know their relationship dynamic purely by this story, and we don't know these people, but OP being surprised that they lasted 22 years, and him probably being unfaithful throughout that whole time, I can't imagine the damage it would have done to that woman. I think she was better off left alone. I think it was better he didn't know. Don't think he had a right to know about her health. He'd already done enough damage himself. In the end, I think OP did the right thing, and they had no reason to tell him, just because he's a doctor, just because he thinks he could connect them with better doctors, etc. He didn't have the right to. It doesn't matter in the end. OP made their decision, the wife made her decision. The wife could have contacted him and she didn't. That speaks volumes also. Doesn't seem to me like she wanted to be in contact with him. Doesn't seem like she wanted him to know that she was dying. She wanted to pass on her own terms. OP, not the a-hole. He is not entitled to private information on his ex-wife, especially if he's been out of contact for 3 years. It sounds like he's feeling guilty and trying to convince himself that he could have changed the outcome. But you made the best decision you could based on what you know about your mum and her wishes. No a-holes here. I understand your reasons for not letting him know, but I can understand his anger. Messy divorce or not, he was still married to her for 22 years, and learning of her death was a shock. I can't believe I had to scroll down this far to see this response. For God's sake, he spent 22 years with this woman. They grew together and had children together. He did an a-hole thing by cheating on her and leaving her, but that doesn't erase their history together. It seems an a-hole thing not to tell the dad that the woman who bore his children died until a month later. They weren't in each other's lives, but they aren't strangers or acquaintances either. Indeed, Dad isn't an a-hole for reacting to the news of his ex-wife's death in this manner. The question isn't, was Dad an a-hole for cheating? He's not an a-hole for being upset or angry. In my opinion, he is an a-hole for expressing that anger or upset to his very recently bereaved child. I mean, yes and no. I don't think that it's wrong to be upset to learn your son kept the news of your ex-wife passing from you because you cheated on her years ago. It's a wildly disproportionate response. It's revenge at that point. I don't think the son kept it from her because he cheated. I think the son probably kept it from her because his mother never got in touch with her ex-husband, even on her deathbed. She had a terminal illness. That is not the same as a sudden death. A long-running illness means you make your own decisions. You make up with long-lost friends, you invite people to the hospital, you set up funeral arrangements, and you decide who should get invited to the funeral. My dad went through a terrible illness too, where we got to the point of him making arrangements and expressing wishes. Thank God he pulled through, but for about a week we were all thinking he wouldn't. If he had refused to inform someone, or refused to inform them when a funeral would take place, I would have honored his wishes too. If OP's dad didn't know, it was likely because his ex didn't want him to and had no desire for him to get involved in her sickness, or help her out during as he said he wanted to. Is it really the responsibility of a grieving son to go directly against her wishes when he's still processing her death? Meh, grief is exhausting. Caring for your dying mother must be excruciating. Maybe OP just didn't have the energy to deal with the father. It's horrible. I did it for my dad 2 years ago. It is the most exhausting thing I've ever experienced in my life, and you're just worn so thin that you have nothing left. It's not OP's job to reach out to deadbeat dad, they just had enough on their plate. Posted by user ElkDifficult3511. Titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my grandparents about my step-siblings destroying my jewelry? My mother died when I was 10. My father married a Goyish woman less than a year later, who promptly did her best to have as many children as she could, and had 3 in as many years. She has 2 older kids too, who are 8 and 7 now. 6 kids is a lot, but it's a pretty big house. I'm the only grandchild on my mother's side, and the only granddaughter on either side. My grandparents typically gift me jewelry, and I got my mother's collection when she died. As a religious custom, we don't really do costume jewelry. All of my jewelry is real and not cheap. It sounds vulgar, but my entire jewelry collection is worth about $100K easily. I came home from seeing a friend, and the oldest 3 had a pile of my jewelry on the floor of her playroom. They had been jumping on it, smashing it, and shooting at it with BB guns. Yeah, my father allows that apparently. I screamed and got my father, who came in with his wife and dismissed the entire thing. They destroyed multiple pieces, several of which were heirloom. My stepmother didn't really care. She pretended to yell at her brats. She later came home with a dollar store necklace that she made the kids get me and said that it should be enough and that I shouldn't have such idols or wear such sacrilegious crap. One of my necklaces is a Star of David. I saw red at that. I got her to repeat it so I could record it. I emailed all of my grandparents, aunts, and uncles detailing what happened, attaching the recording and pictures of the damage, and then I went to those brats' playroom and destroyed one of each of their favorite toys. My grandparents are now suing my stepmother for $50,000, and half of my family now hates her. My father is furious and thinks that I should have kept it within the family and let him work it out. I disagree. This stepmother absolutely knew what she was doing. It kind of sounds like she prompted the kids to do it, but that's just speculation. How did the kids find this jewelry? I mean, I'm sure OP put it somewhere that was safe. How did it end up on the floor in a pile in the kids' playroom? Very suspicious circumstances, that. And the fact that she now has pictures and video evidence of her saying she deserved to have the jewelry, destroyed? Pretty sure you can put 2 and 2 together and say that this was her plan. Genuinely malicious evil by this woman. I don't know how her husband can stay by her and stay with her now that he knows that she's done $50,000 worth of damage to jewelry, because I for sure would kick her ass out if they did something like that to my children. Dear Lord. OP, not the a-hole. I'm glad your grandparents are suing, because seriously, letting her kids destroy jewelry is pathetic. OP, I really suggest moving all the jewelry you have left to your grandparents, because I wouldn't be surprised if she will steal some. Maybe move in with your grandparents as well, if possible, because it sounds like your stepmom will make your life hell. I second that. Your grandparents sound like great people, OP. Move anything valuable there and have them lock it up for you. I'm glad someone in their family is standing up for her. I think the stepmom had no nice jewelry and thought others shouldn't have any either, so she condones her children destroying other possessions. But agreed. Move any other possessions in bank, store it safely in your house, or get it insured. It is people like her stepmom as to why people like OP can't have nice things. Not the a-hole. She let them do that and she's anti-Semitic? Wow. You need to get out of there if your father won't do anything. I can't believe I had to scroll down this far to find someone addressing the whole anti-Semitic thing. Like, you don't do that crap to religious symbols regardless, but it's just wrong. Yeah, the step monster's comment about the sacrilege referring to a Star of David caught me extremely wrong. That's some Mel Gibson level anti-Semitism there. Posted by user EnvironmentalWall59. Titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to get a tattoo like the rest of my family to honor my late brother and his last request? I'm just going to be honest and admit that we didn't really get along. I don't think he was a bad person. He had many friends and was close to almost everyone in our family, but for whatever reason we never saw eye to eye and we weren't what I would consider friends. I would see him at family events and make nice if our paths crossed, but otherwise I never saw him or spoke to him. And the same was true for him, and we were fine with things being that way. If the situation here was reversed, I think he would have had the same reservations I have, because he didn't view me as a friend either. I'm sorry he's gone both for the sake of his wife and kids and our family, but that's the extent of my feelings. His dying is like a stranger dying. Sad, but it doesn't stir any emotions inside me. My whole family, mum, dad, sister, brother-in-law, sister-in-law, brother and my wife, have all agreed to get tattoos honoring my brother and to fulfill his last request, which was for our family to do something so we won't forget him. It will be small with his initials, date of birth, date of death, and possibly a heart or something else. I tried to avoid confrontation as long as I could because I figured no one would understand my resistance, and I was right. I've gotten a lot of strong reactions from my family, ranging from anger to confusion over why I just won't do it to keep the peace. What makes this harder is that my mum, who hates tattoos, has even agreed to do it. So everyone thinks that if even she will do it, then I should suck it up and get the tattoo. It may make me an a-hole to admit it, but if I ever get a tattoo to honor someone, my brother would not be that person. I really don't care to have a reminder of someone I didn't like all that much permanently on my body. I don't know, I've got to agree with OP. I don't really care for dying wishes if it's to tattoo me. You know, if I didn't care about them all too much, I shouldn't have to be pressured by my family to put a tattoo of someone I didn't want tattooed on my body. I feel like they should understand that even though they're grieving. I feel like OP shouldn't be pressured into it, and I think they're not the a-hole for standing strong. Not the a-hole, because personally, I wouldn't do it. I have a lot of tattoos, but if I wasn't close with someone in my family, I definitely wouldn't get a tattoo to remember them. In the end, it's your body and your choice to get it or not. Not the a-hole, get a picture of what they get as the tattoo and hang it in your house. Maybe your mum could do the same. I doubt she will back out at this point. I recommend getting a random tattoo that you want and saying that you got it in honor of your brother. Just say that you wanted to get a tattoo that would make you happy every time you look at it instead of sad. Say that you will remember him fondly every time you see that tattoo, or some bullcrap like that. I bet you got all A's in literature with your ability to create quality bullcrap on the spot like that. Not the a-hole. Tell them you'll plant a tree with a plaque or do a bench in the park or something public in his memory. Heck, do a $500 one-time scholarship in his name. I would be fine with any of those suggestions. As long as it isn't on my body or in my house, I am good with it. Technically, your wife is doing it, so it's going to be in your house. Very true. Alright guys, that's where I'm going to end today's video. I really do hope you enjoyed it, and maybe even learned something that you didn't know before. If you haven't already, please do feel free to click that like button, as it really does help me in the YouTube algorithm. And if you haven't already and you love today's video, please feel free to subscribe. I would love it a lot. Also, big shout out to all my Patreon members and channel subscribers. You guys are all up on the screen right now. I love you. I love your faces. Also, I love seeing you guys all chatting down below in the comments. It brightens my day to see the stories that you guys share and just the kind words you guys always have for my videos, as well as everyone else in the videos. I love you too. But honestly, your ongoing support means the world to me, and I just love it so much that you guys are able to support a career for myself that I invest so much time into. And you guys honestly motivate me to work harder each and every day to put more love into the videos for you guys. If you guys have watched this far in the video and you haven't already subscribed on Patreon or become a channel member, that's cool, you don't have to, but there are links down below. You can donate any amount of money, pledge that any month, cancel whenever. I'm completely cool with it. It's just there for you to support me if you'd like to go the extra mile. And I'll go the extra mile for you guys by putting out new amazing content every single day. With that said guys, I really hope you have a good day, night, sleep, bath, time at work, whatever you're up to today. This has been Markee. I'll see you in the next amazing video. Bye.